Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Miller. Every week, I chat with fascinating people from all walks of life in order to bring you knowledge, inspiration, and insight. If you enjoy the show, you can support it by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. This is the Jeremy Miller Podcast. We're ready to rip this podcast?
Dude, absolutely, man.
Heck yeah.
This is a cool setup. I love the mic and the headphones. I think it makes the finished product look so shiny and nice. Yeah.
So. I love it. I'm excited, dude.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, I think I would say Mitch Ammons, he's an elite guy, OTQ marathoner, but I think you're the first real elite runner I've had on the podcast. Because everybody else I've talked to, they're runners, but they're not like elite runners.
Yeah.
Like they're not running elite times.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing it for a long time. It's like I truly have like a decade plus in the sport.
That's crazy.
That's I'm like saying that, and it's like, oh my goodness, like dang, I'm actually like an old man in this. I've been doing this for over half my life, you know. So
one of the things I definitely want to talk about is like, we can get into this later, is like how you've seen the sport of running change, because I feel like it's changed a lot.
Yes.
Because it's so popular now.
Training wise, I mean, it's like the social aspect of the sport is like skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And training is becoming like, because of social media and stuff, you know, ideas are being passed around more and people are learning more, but then people are also being pushed in another direction as well. So there's like good, bad. It's like,
yeah. And there's definitely, I think one of the great things about running is there's so many aspects. Like you can be a trail runner or an ultra runner or a road ultra runner or like track and field, cross country, like 5K, 10K, like what you do, marathons. There's just so many aspects to running. And then within that, there are, sorry, the dog's
he's all good. He's just in my lap saying what's up.
Within that, there's like the elite side, and then there's like more of like kind of my side, I guess, where it's like creators and just the everyday sort of person. Yeah. But like I know a lot about that side, so I'm really excited to dive into like the elite side of things, the very competitive side.
I think that'll be good, like for your audience. It'll keep them really engaged. It's just it's completely different, you know. And then there's the elite runners where it's like, okay, like what, like they get mad at what people like post, because you know we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
And then create it yourself, you know. But like they're not doing that, and so it's they don't really have a right to complain about that. If they're, then put your information out there, man. Like, you know, because these people are trying to teach other people.
It makes sense, because like their job is not to create content. Their job is to be the best athlete they can be.
Right. And
that takes a lot of time and energy.
Right.
So when you're putting all that into your training, it's like you don't have extra energy to put into making an Instagram reel.
They only have the energy to make a mean comment to somebody. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's the furthest they'll do.
Yeah.
They'll post about it and then act mad. But it's like, dude, like you have the knowledge, like please, like enlighten us, you know, like that kind of thing. So
yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of pro runners and elite runners that just despise content, again, for maybe a number of reasons, but I feel like they have so much information that they could share and help people with. Maybe it's not intentionally selfish, but sometimes I'm like, damn, you have, like, I think Courtney DeWalter, do you know her?
No, I don't. And like that's the thing. I feel like I'm disconnected from like your side of the sport, and like I don't know, like how is she involved?
She's a pro trail runner, like probably the best female trail runner. And she doesn't really do any social media. Like she'll just openly say like, I don't like filming my workouts or filming my stuff, because I don't know if it comes from a place of like almost like gatekeeping the secrets or the information, or if it's like she just doesn't like it for whatever reason. But I don't know. I'm like, share. People want to share, or people should share. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. It's interesting.
One of my coach's greatest mentor is a guy named Arthur Lydiard. He was a New Zealand distance coach, and you should read Running the Lydiard Way with Lydiard and Garth Gilmore if you haven't. But he talks about like, I mean, he just went all over the world and did speaking tours. Like that's the thing. He had this information that he self-experimented back in the 60s, and he discovered it himself. And now some of the methods that we're using, like if you look at like Z2 stuff, like that came from Lydiard testing it on himself back in the day. You know, that just a lot of volume at that like right on the brink of conversational and, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Sam Milan talks about that. And now there's like a lot of things to like back the benefits of what that can do. But then people mistake the zone 2 stuff, and it's like, oh, well, like my heart rate isn't like there. And it's like, well, use the talk test anyways.
Yeah. You seem passionate about the zone 2 thing, because we were talking about it a while this morning.
Yeah. You mentioned it was interesting to you. And so I'm like, there's a lot of crap out there about it. And I just think, if we can learn to apply it the right way, in a way that's practical and understandable for people, then for sure. Because lactate clearance capacity, that mitochondrial function, that how do people do it?
What would you say, like, do you think zone 2 training works? Because it's and I guess for people that don't know, there's obviously 5 heart rate zones.
Yeah.
Start low. I don't know where it starts. It's like a percentage of your max heart rate, basically. Zone 2 is, I think it's what, like 60 to 75% roughly of your max heart rate.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's, whenever we look at heart rate, where do we get it from? And so usually people get it from the wrist. And especially when you're a new runner, you don't know what's going on. You become very attached to this number. And it's like, it determines like how you like execute what you do on a daily basis. And you just really have to learn that heart rate, lactate, like all these different things, they're tools, they're not crutches. And if you can zoom out in that and just adopt that perspective and kind of let go a little bit, then you'll actually get better because of it.
So if there's a new runner out there that says, do you follow like the 80-20 rule? Like roughly 80% of your runs should be quote unquote easy runs?
I think it depends on the time of year that you're, applying it. And there's some programs in the NCAA that kind of do that. Like it's definitely like 20% of their week is intense volume. But then there's other programs in the NCAA where it's like, okay, like 50% of our volume is going to be not hard, not easy, but we're kind of just in a moderate model. Like we're gentle but relentless in terms of the training stimulus.
What about like because you coach some like newer runners, right?
Right.
Say somebody trying to run their first marathon.
Right.
Would you give them the protocol of like 80-20, or like maybe walk us through like if somebody's trying to train for their first marathon, or like PR their marathon, or even qualify for like Boston or something, like run sub 3, what kind of protocol would you give them?
I'm really focused on what is underdeveloped for a lot of people in the population, and that's the aerobic side of things. And so developing that energy system. And how do I do that? Well, give yourself time to build up towards like what you're working for. Some people like sign up for a race and it's like in 2 months, and it's like they come to me and I'm like, I can't do right. Like I can't do much for you there, like the best progress that we'll see in the sport is the stuff that takes time. Lydiard would train his athletes for 2 years before they actually even got the chance to race.
Really?
And he would take guys that were like, new runners, and now they were 28-10 guys in the 6 mile. So because that's what they ran. They ran 6 miles.
So if somebody comes to you and says, I have a race in 2 months, do you take them on? Or do you say, no, you can't race?
I'd be honest with them. And because I'm like, look, man, like whatever you've been doing or whatever you haven't been doing, the cake is already baked. I can give you icing, and I can give you the best icing I got, but we need more time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will be like, hey, I appreciate you like shooting straight with me. Like, let's do it,
Okay. So say you have the ideal amount of time. Like, was that 2 years to you, you think?
It depends on your perspective and what your goal really is. If you really want to just change your running and just be a completely different athlete, then yeah, that's going to take years, but if you want to run a personal best, like you could give yourself like a healthy block. I'd be thinking about something like 5 to 6 months in advance.
Okay.
Just to throw a number out there. I mean, NCAAs is in November, and a lot of people start training in late May when conference ends, and in June for some people.
Okay.
Depending on how far you make it.
So And the only reason I keep asking about marathons is just because I
Absolutely.
would imagine the vast majority of people listening are probably marathon runners or like looking to run their first marathon. Obviously, there's some difference between like your specialty, 5K, 10K, what you run, and then marathons. But there's obviously a ton of crossover too, because it's that distance, that like endurance aerobic activity. Have you done a marathon yet?
I ran a lot of 20 milers. I've ran a lot of 20 milers, and it's 6:10 pace at altitude. And that's just the typical Sunday, right? But I've never crossed the 20-mile line. I certainly feel like I could when I venture into that space, but just for training purposes, it's been a lot of 20 milers.
Yeah, because you don't need to go longer than that for 5K, 10K.
I mean, you could, but it's just like at that point, the quality of your workouts might suffer because you're gonna need more than 2 days to recover from that, right?
Yeah. What are some of the similarities or differences between like how you would train for 5K, 10K, or like the knowledge required versus marathons or like half marathons?
You said knowledge required, like
like I don't know, like the strategy, like nutrition and strength training. I guess everything that goes into it. Because I feel like the longer the distance, the more strategy it requires. Obviously,
yes,
they all take something, but maybe just like similarities or differences. Like, how would you adjust your training for like what you do for like 10K compared to a marathon?
Well, whenever you're training for a marathon, you think, okay, what's the primarily dominant energy system that's in play there? And that's the aerobic system, and so obviously to advance our fitness, we want to do some threshold work, and we'll work on some of the more intense things to move the needle. But when you think about something like the 10K, okay, what's the primary energy system in play? That's really like closer to threshold, right? And so
for people that don't know what threshold is, explain this. You said you had a good definition for it.
Yeah. So in terms of applying threshold, I like to think of it as you're doing an intense effort. You're doing a workout, whether that's threshold intervals. So for example, 5 by mile, 90 seconds rest, something like that, or 4 mile continuous, just like a lot of people call it tempo. It's just kind of like arbitrary. Threshold's a more specific term. But let's say you're doing these efforts. If I'm your coach and I'm talking to you, you should be able to get out a sentence or a phrase, something like that. And if you can't get that phrase out, you're going too hard, because the goal is to run at or close to our lactate threshold. And a lot of people don't have meters to prick themselves and get their numbers and really dial that in. And even if they did, like, they wouldn't know how to do it in 60, 90 seconds. So you can't really apply it. So the talk test is very great for finding threshold,
Interesting. So it's basically the effort you can run to where you can get out, like 5 words or something ish.
Yeah. And I like to call it finding the pocket. And so just continue to increase your effort, right? And then you're to the point where it's like, okay, I can do this for a while. And then if Paul's talking to me, I'm going to be able to get out that sentence to him or that phrase. Like, yeah, coach, I'm good. I got one more in me. Like, that kind of thing.
Okay. Interesting. And then when you get to the point where you can no longer do that, you're above that threshold.
Right. And so, it kind of depends, because there's some times in training where you're only doing 20 minutes worth of it, but then there's some that are less intense and you're doing, 10 miles worth of it. Right. And so you just kind of have to adjust and understand that threshold is not a specific pace. It's something that you can feel. And it's just, you have to really understand that, okay, this is longer. What feels like threshold is going to be a lot less intense here.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because it's like Garmin, Coros, all these running watches give you a threshold pace. And like, I remember even when I did my VO2 max test, they gave me my threshold pace. So you don't think that that's accurate or like a good metric to go off of? More so just like you're talking, basically?
Yeah, I think the talk test is very reliable because, and again, going back to heart rate, some people really over abuse heart rate because it's just right there and it's accessible. But that can change like 15 beats per minute in one direction or the other. And research is like, tested like the accuracy of wrist-based heart rate. And how you feel and paying it. And like my coach says, paying attention to the sensory data that your body gives you, that really is the most important thing, because effort can change based on the weather, the place you're running, the shoes that you're wearing, what you did 2 days before, what did you eat? All these different things play into how you're feeling. And not enough runners like pay attention to that sensory data that your body is like telling you. Your body's constantly giving you information, and you just have to listen, but people are staring at their watch, looking at heart rate.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people like, whether it's a Whoop strap or like Garmin, it's like, oh, you shouldn't run today because your recovery is low, but you feel fine. Your body says you're okay, but your watch is telling you otherwise. And like, nah, I'm not going to run today because my watch says I shouldn't. I'm like, dude, yeah, but you feel fine. Like, go run. You're fine. But I mean, there is maybe sometimes, like we were talking this morning, like some athletes just want to grind every day and they don't want to take rest days or anything. So maybe those tools can be good, but most of the time it's like, just listen to your body. Like, if you feel good, you're probably good.
Yeah, right. We make that joke all the time on one of my good buddies at Florida State, his name's Patrick, and he would always like tell me, "Hey man, I'm not coming to practice today. My watch said I had to rest for 3 days." Yeah. I'm like, "Okay, man, I'll see you Monday." Like, say it. And yeah, we just throw that one back and forth.
It's so goofy.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, if you're new to the sport, that's like, if you have nothing else to base it off of, it's like, maybe that can be something, but because in my experience, like, it just takes so much time and experience to like build up that intuition on how you're feeling. And like, if you've only been running for 6 months and you're trying to train for like your first marathon, it's like,
right.
You don't really know how you're supposed to feel because you've never done it before. So maybe, do you think that's where there could be a time and place for like data or like heart rate or anything? Or do you think it's like just solely based off of like talk test?
I mean, in an ideal world, you use, and this is like probably the perfect thing, you combine a lot of different factors, like, okay, maybe use the strap, not the wrist, right? And then maybe you do have practical access to lactate meters, but that's not the case for 99% of the 99.9. And then you combine that all with the talk test, and you have all these different metrics that kind of give you like a concentrated like answer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so all hail the talk test.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And Inigo San Milan, I follow his stuff all the time, and he's like someone I really look to, and he's talked about this before on other things, and he gets invites to podcasts all the time, and he gets as he said, I get hundreds of emails every day about like, hey, how do I do this? And when it comes to practicality, it's your body. It's right there, Yeah. It's like not external, it's like internal. You really have to like dial in to yourself and how you feel.
So he's in favor of the talk test?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
And that's Sam Milan. How do you spell his last name?
Inigo San Milan. So Millan, and so it's kind of like a double last name.
Okay. Dang, I gotta check him out. Interesting.
Yeah, man, it's really cool.
It's
and
so fascinating.
He happens to be like at CU, which is like nice. Super cool. I haven't met him yet, but like I said, follow his stuff all the time.
Yeah. Okay. For people that don't know Paul Stafford.
Yeah.
Let's dive into Paul and your background. So you ran collegiately, FSU, Colorado University, or University of Colorado, CU. Yep. How did you get into running initially?
So my dad's a PE teacher, and I just started in the 4th grade. I was doing well in gym class, and we would run laps every day. We'd play tag. We'd do all these things, and it's just like my dad asked me, hey, like, there's this local track team, you want to get started? And it's like, yeah, for sure. It's an AAU team. And I think that was great because I didn't over dive into the sport. I wasn't training 6 days a week, not 7 days a week. I was training 3 days a week, and it was all fun. And so I learned the fundamentals of the sport and how to work out, how to run without getting burnt out on it. And I was doing other sports. I played football, basketball, all these different things. And then I meet my high school coach, Austin Richmond, at a local 5K. He's the first person I had seen in person to run a sub 15-minute 5K, and he did it at a local road race. My young self chases him down on a cool down, and I'm like, do you run for Oregon? That was the first thing I asked him. Like, it's just so funny. But he's like, oh, I just moved down from Boulder to this area in Central Florida where I was from. And yeah, so thankful for him. Great mentor of mine, and the rest is history. I wouldn't be where I am in running without Coach AJ. So
dang, so you started in 4th grade, just PE class, running around.
Yeah, man, and did track throughout middle school in the summers. Summers were track, fall was football, and basketball was winter.
Did you guys have indoor track in Florida?
No, man.
Really?
So they actually indoor meets are starting to become popular in Florida. Now there's a facility around University of Florida. So
nice,
but no indoor experience really until I got to college.
So it's probably a pretty short season. Did you do cross country or just track in middle school, high school?
So I didn't pick up cross country until I really got to high school, even though I did like 1 or 2 cross country meets in the 8th grade. Or I did a couple, I guess. There was a middle school season. It's hard. I ran so many races. It's almost, sometimes it's hard to put together.
Dang, that's cool. What distances did you do were you always like the longer distance guy?
Yes. And for a while there, like, I mean, the longest distance in AAU track was the 3,000.
Okay.
And just the way you say it, like 3,000, like when a kid hears 3,000, they're like, what, So
feels like a marathon when you're like 12 years old.
Yeah. So, looking back, I was like, why was I scared of that distance? But I ran a lot of 1,500s, a lot of 800s, when I was younger. And
nice.
Then Coach AJ was the one that convinced me, hey man, you need to run like the 3,200 and you're going to be running the 5K in cross country. So
what made you gravitate towards the longer stuff versus like the 1, 2, 4, the short, like the sprints?
Good question. Cause I had a lot of speed in football, like believe it or not, I know like distance runner, but I did take a kick to the house. I could run some rush TDs, but man, I excelled much better at it, like in sprints, I was like definitely mediocre, I had that engine and I didn't realize it, but yeah, probably a little bit of props to my dad for running me around so much,
What do you think that is? It like maybe it's like a genetic predisposition? Maybe you have like, you're just more aligned with like the distance, or maybe like the mindset. Cause I remember, dude, when I did track in middle school, like it's kind of a joke in like 6th grade or something. And I didn't really take it seriously or anything. And I just picked the shortest distances possible, the 1, 2, and the 4. Cause I don't think I had the mental strength or the patience to like do anything longer than that. So like, what do you think? Like, do you think you had just maybe the mindset to like be able to push through? I mean, dude, to run 3K takes what, like 10 minutes when you're that old?
At that age, man, I might have done the 3K one. It's probably something like that, right? I think in middle school I ran like 10:30 or 10:40 in cross country for a 3K.
I mean, that's a long race when you're only 10 or 12 years old.
Yeah, you're honestly right. Like that's just, looking back, I didn't realize like how far that actually felt.
Yeah.
Versus how far it actually was.
I remember I had to do the 800 one year. I think it was in like 5th grade. There was like 2 kids that like willingly did the 800. I think they like threw me in there because they just needed somebody else to like race this other kid or something. And I did the 800 and did 2 laps around the track. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like this is so far.
Yeah, the 800, like genuinely one of the hardest events in track and field, top 3.
Yeah.
I'd go 800, 3K steeple, and 400 hurdles. Those are my top 3 hardest events in track and field, I would say.
Have you done all those at one point?
I ran an 800. I've never run a 3K steeple, and mad respect to my teammates that do that. Like they did it at conference at altitude, a 3K steeple. Dang. And then the 400 hurdles, like that's just such an intense event with barriers, like that's unreal too.
Dang. Yeah, I can't do hurdles. I can't jump like that. It's just not in my genetics.
Right.
Not in my anatomy. Dang. Okay. So high school, when did you know you were going to run college? Because I mean, FSU and CU, those are huge, like D1 programs. When did you know, like, okay, I can actually get a scholarship and go to school for this?
So I didn't realize like how close I was until it kind of just all jumped at me at once. And that's the crazy part about recruiting is all it takes is one race. Like, my junior year in high school, I, after missing my sophomore year for like a hamstring injury, and this was before I met Coach AJ, I didn't really start training with him until I was about to be a junior. I ran 16 flat my junior year, and honestly, probably the best thing that could have happened to me running 16 flat, because it left me with some hunger. Like, not only do I want 59, but I want more, you know?
Yeah. That's pretty damn fast to me. I don't think I could ever run 16 flat, but I'm also not trying to go D1.
No, yeah, exactly, man.
But did you have like a number you needed to try and hit? Like, is there kind of a baseline? Okay, if you want to try and run D1 track or cross country, like, you gotta be able to hit this time.
That's a great question. And it's like, you know, a lot of times the kids, like, they get a little bit over focused on the standards of like what it takes to run D1. I wasn't thinking about a number at all. I was just thinking about competing and winning every race. And then there was one race where the previous year at the state meet, which is at FSU in their home course, I got 37th after winning every race the entire year. And I think I got second in the opener. But then the following year we get to pre-state. And so that's like an October meet, and it's kind of like a preview of state in a way. And I popped off and like had a big day. And I think I want to say I ran like 15:29. Florida State coach was watching, Bob Brayman. He just retired, and like, God bless him. He's a great guy, man. That's a great career. And then I met up with him after, and it was super cool to be recruited. That was my first like big school, you know.
Was that the goal throughout high school, to try and go D1? Did you have that
I feel like it was just to try and go to college to run.
Yeah.
You know, and again, my focus was like not on like specific school or specific time. It was just on winning and competing. And because I think, I was just a competitor, and Coach AJ like really helped me out with that.
Nice. So that 15:29, you took 37th in the state?
37th in the state of Florida my junior year, and then 15:29 when I ran the pre-state meet the following year. That was like I like won.
Oh, okay,
that was
okay.
That was a really big deal for me. That was the highlight of my career at the time.
Dang. What about when you got to state?
When I got to state that year, my senior year, I got second to a guy named Charles Hicks, and I've competed with him like a lot of different times in high school, and now he runs professionally for the Bowerman Track Club.
Yeah, I've heard of that name before.
Yeah,
I definitely heard of him.
And he's a YouTuber.
Okay.
He represents the UK in international competition.
Nice. Does he do marathons now, or what's his?
He's more in track stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I very much like I've competed with him like quite a bit, and he's gotten the best of me like more times than I've gotten him. But great competitor, great person. So
nice. Did you like throughout high school, were you really intentional of like doing workouts like outside of school and outside of like the team practices, and like putting in extra hours to like try and hit this goal? Or do you feel like you kind of relied on like some of the natural ability plus like whatever the program was having you do, like the school program? Mm-hmm. Or did you was it like, I've got to go run school, or I got to go run track in college, and like put in all this extra work?
That's a good question, because like, you know, some kids, they will like do their school's workout, and then they'll also like try and go and do like another workout. And that's, if you're not durable, that's like a fast track to injury.
Yeah.
But my high school coach, he was so like knowledgeable about the sport, that what I was doing in practice and what he was observing, all of that was like sufficient. And I would do like, nice, you know, little doubles here and there, like 2 and 3 miles to like shake out, and then I'd stretch for 10 or 15 minutes after. But that was the extent of like my outside of practice work.
Nice.
You know,
if there was like a high school kid or middle school kid listening to this, what advice would you have to them if they're trying to go D1 or run in college?
Really foundational. And this applies to a lot of different concepts in life. Don't miss a day. You know, just don't miss a day. Even if you take a rest day, like let's say you take Sundays off, you do 6-day weeks, be intentional about it. Go and walk for 15 minutes, and then do some stretching after you've gotten the blood moving, you know. It is like so simple, and people like don't want to hear it because they want some magic, right? Yeah. They want some they want some secret to getting faster, but it's just do it every day, man, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll have kids that like message me and it's like, hey, my heart rate was this, you know, is like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, all right, let's not worry about it. Like, we're 2 weeks in, let's just do it every day.
Yeah.
You know, zooming out, and I really want to teach the kids that it's about work over a long period of time. It's not it's not some fast track. It's not the express lane, you know? So,
Yeah, I like that. I guess consistency could be another way to put that too.
right.
Just be consistent.
Right. And so when I coach and stuff, you know, my coaching business I started up, it's like blue collar endurance. And one of the taglines is a working class mentality. And so whenever I say working class mentality, what do people that are blue collar do? They show up early.
Yeah.
They get it done. And then they go back the next day and they rinse and repeat, you know? So
I like that.
Yeah. Working class mentality, just adopt that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always loved the mindset of just like work harder than the person next to you, or work harder than yourself than you did yesterday. Just like keep showing up, just work hard. Like you can outsmart or you can outwork anybody. You might not be able to outsmart or out talent somebody, but you can always outwork somebody. So as long as you keep showing up, I think it's easy. And I do this all the time. I'm like, I blame it on my genetics or like my life experience. Like, I didn't have the right cards. But it's like, dude, just show up and work. Like that can go so far for so many people.
Right.
So I love that mentality.
Yeah, man. There's you know, back in the day, and I love this story. Like it's in the book How Bad Do You Want It?
I've heard of that.
By Matt Fitzgerald, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully I got that right. But there's a section in the book where they talk about the US competing in the World Cross Country Championships, and obviously the giants in distance running, Kenya, Ethiopia, all these places that are, you know, dominated by distance runners. They dominate on the world stage. And for a while, we just adopted this mentality of like superhumanization in the US, where we tried to blame the East Africans being better than us on the fact that they have this gene, or they have like this gene that gives them narrow calves and we don't have that. And then that's why they're better than us as a whole. But then the US team proved that wrong with their performance. I want to say we snuck into the top 3 and we beat either Kenya or Ethiopia. Maybe we got second. I can't remember the specifics of that, but great story about that team.
I like that. That's even like in when I was down in Jamaica, like that was my biggest takeaway. Is like everybody's like, "What's the secret? Why are Jamaicans so fast in the sprints?" And it's like it's just the culture. It's just like the way they live, the way they train. It's like maybe 1% of it is their genetics or something. Like you could argue, maybe, who knows? But so much of it's just the work ethic and the mindset around everything. It's so powerful. I always have to remind myself, like, there's always somebody in a worse off position who's doing more than me or has done better than me. It's like a good reminder that like there's no excuses. You got to just shut up and do the work.
I would argue that the cultural piece of it is really, rather than genetics, is what makes that impact. It's someone trailblazed it, Bolt, right?
Yeah.
There's been plenty of other good Jamaicans in the sprints, and it's just, you know, that when someone sees that, they're like, I can do this too.
Yeah.
And that's really the most powerful piece in my mind.
Yeah.
That's why when you see, let's just take a college team, for example, it starts off with one athlete doing well. And then the guys latch on and it's like, man, like I want to be like him. And now next thing you know, we have 2 guys doing well. And that's how championship teams form, you know?
Yeah. It's like when you surround yourself with people doing the thing you want to do or that are better than you, it makes you better just by virtue of being around them and like seeing that it's possible, because it makes you believe in your mind, like, if this guy next to me can do it, why can't I do it? I mean, it's like Oregon's probably a good example of that with like Prefontaine. It's like he was a trailblazer, I feel like, and now, because as far as I know, before like Oregon wasn't really the powerhouse for track and field, but it's like you get this one good guy and now the whole culture of the school, like they're the track and field school. Yeah,
man. It's like, you know, now, like when distance runners have the stash, it's free. It is. And that's crazy to see like how someone that blazes a trail can really like make an impact like that. People want to be like that. I mean, I've got the stash going on and like, you know, it pre-started that.
It definitely makes you faster.
Yeah. I wonder what the stash conversion is. I'm not really sure. We need to figure that out though.
Somebody needs to do a study on this. I love that.
Yeah.
So dude, tell us about the experience running D1 and at FSU and CU. Cause I think that's going to be it's a very unique experience that not a lot of people get to have. No,
for sure. It's a lot. It starts off very fast. And you know, when you're a small town kid going to a D1 school and your eyes are so wide. Everything's like so shiny and like new. And it's like, wow, I'm like really here. And then you really start getting into the training and the grinder that is the NCAA. And you're like, wow, this is hard, right? The workouts are like hard. And then I got to like go home and like do school, like somehow squeeze that in. And then, oh wait, shoot, I forgot to eat. Right. And then, oh no, like it's 11. I have practice at 6:30. Like what am I doing? So, I think one of the benefits of being an NCAA athlete is that when you do leave and it's time to get a job and whatnot, employers that are smart, they see that this guy showed up somewhere for 5 years, for 30 hours a week or 25 hours a week, 20 hours a week. And he was consistent and he excelled. So I want him in my company, it expands beyond that.
Yeah. You didn't go the corporate route though.
No,
so you didn't need that.
Yeah, no. But like that piece is valuable as well.
100%. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What was the difference like from maybe training wise from high school to college? Obviously probably a lot more intense, like more time spent training, or what did that difference look like?
The intensity increased significantly. The competition also increased significantly. But the guys that you're training with, you have much better training partners, and learning to work out on a college team, like you could write a book about that, like in yourself, like just that alone, because everyone's so like dialed in and good at what they do. Let's say, for example, we're doing a workout, right? 6 by mile, 440, lap jog, rest, 2:30, 2.5 minutes probably for that rest. You pace the rep, right? So probably got 5 guys in a train. You're leading the way. First lap, 68. Dude, what are you doing? Like, like it has to be 70, 70, 70, 70. Like,
Dang.
like pacing, or any college runner will tell you, like pacing a rep is like one of the most like looked at and like important things, because like, man, like it makes all the 4 other guys behind you not feel so good. And yeah, man, I take pride in being a great pacer. I've messed up here and there, but I feel like I've got like a 90% success rate.
When you're doing that on a track, are you just going off your GPS watch, or like how are you tracking? Like, I mean, 68 to 70, that's a very small difference.
It's
big but small at the same time.
Yeah. I could put on my resume probably like, ask me to run a lap in 70 to 75 seconds or 66 to 75 seconds, and I will run the exact number that you give me.
Really?
Like that's how like in tune NCAA athletes are with their body. They know within the first 50 meters, hey, we're going to run a 66 if we keep on going at this clip. Like, let's back off. Like,
really?
We are, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, like understanding the sensory data your body gives you. We've repeated these so much that we know what the difference between a 66 and a 67 feels like. It's actually crazy.
I mean, it's a 1 second. 1 second per lap, obviously. Again, it's small, but it's very significant.
Right.
Because it compounds.
Right.
Interesting. Is it almost like maybe like an internal clock too, of like you've just done it so many times that it's like, okay, this is exactly right where we need to be. That's crazy. Do you ever use like look at GPS, maybe if you're out on the roads or something? Or
so the main thing is, we set our watches to lap time, right? And so you click that, and then it gives you a fresh clock, like whenever you start the rep and cross the line. And then, like at that point, let's say we're doing like Ks or something, 1K repeats, and you get to the 200 or the 400, and you kind of know where you're standing early on in the rep. And obviously, there's some people that need to check their watch every 100 meters to make sure that it's perfect. But if you do that too much, then you're slowing down, and the guys are like, "What are you doing? 71?" Like. So
that's crazy. I never knew that.
It's a whole like intricate piece of like collegiate distance running that like a lot of people don't know, but so dialed in terms of like execution in the workouts. Like let's say we're doing 6 by mile, right? 440, like we'll finish the workout. Our splits are 440, 440, 440, 440, 439, 438.
Dang.
Like the execution is professional. Like, very much so.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. I gotta get better at that. I'm the GPS like every 30 seconds guy.
Yeah. Well, the more you do it, man, you'll find
That's
it.
true.
You'll find your pocket.
Nice. Okay.
So
what was your so 5K, 10K was your specialty. Is that cross country and track?
Good question. So high school 5K for cross country, and that's what they offer. And then when you get to college, it's 8K in the regular season. So that's for people that know roughly 5 miles, probably like 494, 497. I can't 100% nail that. But and then when it gets to the championship season, and this is the most challenging part of the NCAA season, where you have to run 2 10K cross country in 8 days.
Oh, wow.
Regionals, and then you got to qualify. Obviously, like that's not too easy because you have to qualify. And then nationals in 8 days later.
Dang. And that's cross country or track?
That's cross country.
Okay.
Yeah.
And cross country is in the fall, tracks in the spring, typically?
Yeah. Cross country, fall sport, train all summer for it. And you use your summer base and foundation and the work that you did in the fall to really like springboard you into the spring season, because that's why having a good summer is so important, because you need to, if you're like one of the top guys, you need to be like running well into like mid-May and late June, and you're starting in December. So and that's why you can't rush it. It's a long way to home,
Yeah. Okay, dude, I clearly know nothing about track, cross country, this whole world, because I was never in it.
Right.
So track, you're obviously doing all the, is it 5K in college in track?
Yeah. And in college, the events that are kind of like distance or considered distance, I would say 1,500, 3K steeple, 5K, and 10K.
Okay.
And then once you get into the 8, I start to consider that middle distance. And some people consider the 15 middle distance as well. And honestly, I would too.
And you run all those obviously on the track.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are all done on the track.
Okay. And which ones did you do in track and field?
Primarily the 5K and the 10K outdoors. Okay. And then indoors, I would run the mile and the 3K, because indoors, the longest distance they offer is the 5. And so that's 25 laps on an indoor track. That's a 5K. And then 12 and a half outdoors.
That's a lot of laps.
Mm-hmm.
And then for cross country, okay, you said that already. So, and cross country, you run, the course kind of varies, right? Like, is it like dirt or grass? Like, I've seen so many different variables of it.
Yeah, that's the kind of the beauty of cross country, is that no venue is the same. They can be similar, but they're not the same. Florida State's course, I'll just take that for example, and they're actually hosting World Cross Country Championships in 2026.
Oh, nice.
Which is awesome. But starts off like flat grass. It's pretty quick, and then it goes to a sharp downhill, and then like another uphill, and then it turns around. And this is the unique piece of it that I'm getting to, is where you start to go through like a pine forest, and then it turns into gravel, and like it's an extended section of gravel. And my coach, Coach Brayman at FSU, he actually, when that course was birthed, he cut that course out with a machete. It used to be the garbage dump, and now it's Appalachia Regional Park, one of the premier cross-country venues in the United States.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and it's bringing in a lot of money for the city, and it's hosts the state meet every year. It's a phenomenal venue. So
we've run on gravel and through forest. It reminds me of like road running versus trail running a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, it sounds like you'd have to train a little differently for those, or do you?
Yes. I like to say, prepare for the surface that you're competing on. And so if it's cross country, then I'm telling my athletes, okay, let's do this on cross country surface. So anything that's not paved road or track. And then sometimes when I want them to feel fast and kind of just get that mental boost, then I'll have them do some stuff on the track. But it's prepare for the surface you're competing on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Interesting. What was your favorite? Which one did you prefer?
Whatever season I'm in is the one that I love at the moment. And then as soon as that season ends, I'm excited for the next one. So nice. I'm fortunate enough to be like very present in that, you know what I mean?
Do the workouts themselves change, or just the surface you're running on?
No, for sure. The workouts absolutely change, because in cross country, you have to throw the numbers out the window a little bit because of the surface. And when there's undulating things and like hills, like you can't put a pace on that unless you've done it so many times that you know what that means to run a rep in a specific time. So yeah, in cross country, sometimes it's just like throwing the pace out the window and trying to target a feeling rather than a time.
Interesting.
And then as things get more race specific, you can you can start out workouts like, all right, I'm going to do 3 minutes hard before this workout starts because I'm trying to simulate the start of a cross country race.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like the art of coaching a little bit. Like, what are the demands of competition? What am I asking my body to do? And so doing that, like a cross country race typically goes out guns blazing. Everyone's trying to position themselves to get to the front.
Dang.
You know?
Interesting. Yeah, it's so similar to trail running and road running. It's like road running, you're so dialed in on this specific pace, like down to the second per mile, and same thing with track and field, and then with cross country versus trail, because it's when like you can't predict the course, obviously, so it's more based off of feel. Interesting.
Yeah,
I like that, dude. You got to get more to trail running. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, I definitely have the engine for it, I feel like, but you know, and I kind of have a little bit of an athletic background, so it's like, you know, the technical pieces of it, I think I could adopt a lot more than, like, you know, some runners get into running because they're not athletic, you know, and so the technical piece of trail running could like be challenging for them. Then they turn an ankle, and then it's like, you know, like, ouch, like.
And I mean, you live in Boulder. I mean, dude, like the mecca of trail.
Mecca at the same time.
That's sick.
Yeah.
What maybe walk us through like a day in the life at Florida State, D1 track and field, D1 cross country.
Yeah, we'll do a cross country season. All right, wake up 6:15, right? Get ready to go. Walk over to the track. The van leaves at 6:45 in the morning, and it's dark. The guys are quiet. So people got their headphones in. Everyone's waking up. Get to the trail probably 7:05. Get out, warm up. Boom, we're doing the workout by 7:45. 8 miles, 5:20 pace with, like, that's the average. And then there's hard, easy, mediums in there. It's all miles. And then we come back and, you know, some people lift, some people go to class. Like, lifts are kind of hard to dial in with the class schedules and whatnot. But yeah, everyone kind of disperses for the day, and we have a general group that meets for lift. But, you know, it's, it's at that point, it's your day, man. It's school. You got to stay on top of that. And then you got to recover because you started off your day with like a nuke of a workout, like, you know, so.
How many days a week would you guys do workouts like that?
So at Florida State, twice a week. And it would be a Monday, Friday system where, you know, we have 3 days in between the Monday and Friday workout because the workouts were harder. So we needed that space for that. And that's the rationale behind it, you know. And
those 3 days in between, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would just be like easy run days, basically?
Easy Tuesday, and then Wednesday would be easy and, you know, kind of like some 200s, like some neuromuscular work, you know, but it's not too much where it's overbearing. So like probably 9 200s, nothing wild. And then Thursday would be easy again, and then back to workout Friday.
Okay.
And Saturday, long run time on feet. Really easy, just because that's how the long run's designed in the program. And then Sunday, that's like your chill day, like go like 4 miles, you know.
Okay. So running every day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But just Sunday's easy day. Okay.
Right.
When you're doing your easy runs, is that pure like conversation pace, or are you like trying to? Because I know some people have like a long run pace, or they have like their easy day pace they try and hit. What did you gauge that off of?
I would define like an easy run as dining hall conversation, right? You know, that's what I would define as an easy run. Now, then when you start to get into like, you know, what a lot of people would say is zone 2, like what Sam Milan would say is zone 2. That's like that labored conversation where it's like, man, like I didn't study for this like test, and it's like, but it's like, I should probably do a little bit more of that next time. Like that kind of breathing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Conversational,
but labored is the descriptor.
What would you describe this morning's run as? We did 7 miles, 8:30 per mile. It was hot, humid.
Yeah.
What would you describe today as for yourself?
For me, that was dining hall for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, dining hall conversation.
Probably even less than that even.
I think my heart rate was like, and give or take because of like wrist obviously, but the feedback I got was 132.
Okay.
So like,
just chill.
Yeah, man. But then like I was spiked, you know, like the previous afternoon, right? I was like, geez, welcome back to humidity, man. Like I was dying on a hill, like over by the UT track.
Yeah. What's like a typical easy day run for you, or like, you know, like a Tuesday morning run? Like what would that normally be like pace wise, or
I mean,
mileage and pace wise?
Yeah, that's probably anywhere from, depends on the time of year again, but I think 10 at the minimum, 10 miles at the minimum, and it's like 12 on the high end,
Okay.
and probably 7 flat to 7:10 in terms of pace. And it's just like we don't really look at the pace that much. It is like generally in the same range, and it's just like repeating it, and we're just, as long as we're dining hall conversation, like we're in a good spot.
So like 75-ish minutes, basically.
Yeah, 70 to 75,
Okay,
somewhere in there.
that sounds about right. I mean, that's basically when I'm in like a marathon build. That's what I do. It's only usually like 8 miles for me, but I'm slower. So,
but yeah, you get how much time in feet is that again?
I usually aim for a peak marathon like 10 to 12 hours a week of running. So
yeah,
like 75 minutes for the
that's perfect.
days in between.
That's great.
Interesting. Okay. This is all fascinating. I love learning this.
Yeah, man. I love, this is something I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about coaching and training. And I mean, I have to. I've been in it for a long time. And this is what I want to do for a long time as well. So.
And your long runs, were they ever long run workouts or just time on feet?
Good question. And like when you start to get into marathon training, mixing that together is a good ground. It makes things very race specific. Like, we're not just training to do workouts, like we're in complete workouts. We're training to race. And so the workouts that you're doing should be preparing you for the demands of the thing that you're actually racing,
And so like say you're training for like peak 5K, 10K season, what's a typical week look like for mileage and time?
It depends on how far out you are from the race. So like, let's say we're 4 weeks out. Actually, let's do 2 weeks out. So 2 weeks out from like a 5K race and you're trying to run really well, then okay, we need to start thinking about like, what is the most specific workout that we can do in that range that's like, we're not too close to the race where it's like, but literally we could do like 5 by K with longer rests at like our intended pace, or 6 by K, that kind of thing. And that's when you're in a good spot, when it's like you're repping like some pretty good Ks like at altitude that's like close to your race pace, but like you're not going to the well doing it. You're in tune with your body, your mechanics are like very smooth, you're nailing like the lap splits. It's things aren't faltering. One of the best things about Mark Wetmore, which is my coach at CU, is he knows that I'm very in tune with my body. And so let's say it's a rep range, it's 8 to 10 by K or something like that, and I'm doing the workout, and he'll just look at me during the rest jog, and he's like, Paul, are you good? And I'm like, we're at 7 reps. And I'm like, coach, I'm going to do 1 more, or coach, I'm going to do 2 more. And he knows that not only am I secure and confident enough to be able to not hit the max of the range, he knows that Paul's thinking like a couple days like ahead. Like, at least that's how I feel that he thinks about me. Like, he knows I have like a good training IQ.
Yeah.
I'm not going to run myself in the ground.
That's important. Okay, back. So what would like your weekly mileage and time be?
Yeah. So 90 miles probably.
Okay. That seems like so much for 5K, 10K.
Yeah, and it's 2 great workouts. And a lot of that, like, okay, look at 90 miles and look at how it's broken up. A lot of that like volume, probably like 45 miles of it is like 6:10 or faster. Like,
Dang.
So not only is it like high in volume, but it's also dense in quality.
Yeah.
And it helps like the Sunday long run. Like we don't like mess around, we kind of like, we get it going like 18 miles, like 6:10 pace, that kind of thing.
Jeez, that's a ton of volume and intensity. Did you suffer many injuries at FSU?
Yeah, I went through it like a lot of people did. And it's just in college, you should look at it like this. You're trying to train high volume and high intensity because it's the NCAA, and like money is being invested into you, and it's important for the school to do well. So yeah, I had my fair share. I've torn my hip flexor before, and I've had some back things, but we have access to resources. We have sports med and things like that, and we can we're able to get stronger after that kind of thing is sustained. And a lot of people don't have that. So very fortunate.
Dang. Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, if I would definitely be injured if I was doing that much volume or intensity.
Yeah.
I for myself personally, I find I don't like following a training plan to a T. Like I like using it as kind of like a guideline. And then depending on the day, I guess like kind of what you're talking about, like rep ranges or like even like kind of variable mileage for the easy days or something of like,
Yes.
Instead of doing the 10 miles programmed, I'm just going to do like 7 today. And I think it's so important. But I'm also not D1 running, with like scholarship money on the line and things like that. So it's a little bit easier to get away with it, I guess. But
this is,
I don't know.
I'll just say this is like a great way to look at it. Ask yourself, what do I need to get done today? And just don't follow that, follow what can I get done today? So it's when you adopt that mentality, not only are you more confident because you're listening to your body, but what can I get done today?
What does strength training look like at FSU?
Good question. We twice a week. So, and typically that's on the workout days because it's the mentality of like hard days hard. So it follows that. It's just there's a lot of things in the rotation that are very like injury prevention focused, and so then there's only like a couple lifts where it's like, all right, like we're trying to like do more here, like a trap bar deadlift, that kind of thing. It's a mixture of like, okay, here we're trying to like help our performance, but then on the other end, we're trying to do things that are higher reps, just getting our tendons healthy and things like that.
Yeah. What would a typical strength session look like?
Probably like three supersets of 3 different exercises. So 9 exercises total, and then core to top it off at the end. And then on each of those exercises, we're doing like 3 sets of those.
Okay.
So 3 sets of 9 different exercises.
What would the rep ranges be normally?
It depends on the exercise, and I think with things like trap bar deadlifts, it's a little bit lower. So probably like 3 to 5,
okay.
right? And then when you get into the prevention stuff, like let's say hip flexor lift offs, when you're seated, that's like, okay, 10 reps each leg. So it feels a lot more like you're in PT or like a rehab room, that kind of thing.
So what are some of those exercises? Trap bar deadlifts, hip flexor. I don't think I've ever done those.
Yeah. So you're just sitting on the ground and you're sitting up straight, and you can put a shoe or a block in front of you, but you're lifting up using your hip flexor, keeping your legs straight, going back and forth.
Is it kind of like a hip thrust? Or is that different?
No, I
have to see a video.
It's just like, imagine these are your 2 legs. Like hip flexor lift off is like this.
Oh, I've done those. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Coaches have different words and phrases for all these different exercises.
I don't even know what I would call that. That makes sense though.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So those 2 things. What else would you do?
We did some weighted pull-ups, and I did that at both CU and Florida State.
Nice.
And then things with a kettlebell I really liked.
I love kettlebells.
Yeah, kettlebell stuff's great. And I had a former athletic trainer at Florida State, Anthony Allen, and he was great teaching me a lot of the kettlebell stuff. Like I still like have those exercises in my head.
Yeah.
And when I do them when I can,
Yeah, kettlebell is great because it's like the center of gravity is always shifting, so it requires so much stability and balance. Whereas like with a dumbbell, it's always kind of the same center of gravity. Okay, pull-ups. What kind of kettlebell stuff? Like cleans and snatches, like goblet squats, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I like the sumo squats great, right? The sumo squats great with those. And then the single arm swings are also like great as well.
Yeah.
Just really trying to get the glutes to be like powerful and like you said, like powerful and stable at the same time, because like the shifting that you mentioned. I need to do a little bit more research on like on the kettlebell stuff, because I love it personally. And so I really want to be able to, because as a coach you have to explain things to your athletes and like why we're doing it. So
did you guys do like Bulgarian split squats, or I'm trying to think what else, like box step ups, any of those? Those are some of my favorites.
So both, and it just depends on like the program. Usually we'll get like a 4-week program with all these exercises for day 1 and day 2, and then we'll get a new program. But yeah.
So 2 strength workouts a week, always on speed days or the workout days.
Yeah, always on the workout days. And it's just like
Nice.
at Florida State, the mentality is like the hard day is hard,
Yeah.
But at CU, it was Monday, Friday, but Monday was an easy day and Friday was a workout day. So there, it's like, we're mixing it up.
Yeah.
And I imagine the rationale behind it is because it's pretty evenly spread, and that's probably why both programs did Monday, Friday.
Yeah. I find for me, and people I coach too, like it seems like keeping the hard days hard tends to be better because and then the easy days are truly easy and you can recover. I feel like if I did like a leg workout and then tomorrow I do a speed session and then do like another leg workout, it's like you're constantly just trying to recover and sore and you're just like spreading it out too much. I don't know. I like having everything kind of concentrated a couple times a week.
Right. No, totally. And that works for a lot of people. But then there's like a model where it's like, okay, rather than like the load like itself on like one specific day, we're going to try and produce an adaptation with frequency of stimulus. And so none of these like stimulus is like they're not crazy, right? They're repeatable and they're challenging. You can come back to them, but we're doing like a lot more like moderately challenging things over the course of like a 7-day period, which is usually people measure in 7-day periods.
Right.
But I like the ranges, like you said.
So so how long were you at FSU, and then what made you switch or transfer to CU?
Florida State 5 years, and COVID years, medical red shirt, all these things. I had one more year, and I had already graduated from Florida State, and so every young runner's dream is to run for the Buffaloes, University of Colorado. And, there's a book about it, Running with the Buffaloes. And I reached out to Colorado when I was in high school, and, I got sent back to standards, but like I wasn't good enough to go to CU in high school. So, then CU for 1 year after that.
So how'd you get in from FSU when they not denied you in high school, but didn't have the standards yet? I'm guessing you just hit the standards at some point at FSU.
Yeah. So it's a lot more subjective with transfers because there's a lot more information for the coach to look at. It's like, okay, how has he performed at cross country nationals? How has he ran on the track? And truth be told, I wasn't like the best track runner. Like really, I mean, in terms of like the collegiate standard, I was a 14-20 something 5K guy. And for collegiates, that's not as good. And I hadn't broken 30 minutes in the 10K, and a lot of collegiates have. But Mark took a chance on me because a lot of the guys knew me and they said I was a good guy, and one of the girls on the team said I was a good guy, and then I had a 2019 71st place finish at the NCAA championships, which is the 250 of the best guys in the country. And I guess he just adopted the mentality of if he can do it once, he can do it again, because 71st is pretty good. Yeah. I know that sounds like it's not that good, but
I mean, out of every runner in the country,
yeah, it's the second most competitive cross country race in the entire world behind the World Cross Country Championships. The NCAA championship is. So.
Dang. 71st. So that was your last year at FSU you did that?
It was my sophomore year at Florida State. And then COVID happened. I started dealing with some injuries, and I ran pretty well during the COVID 2020 fall, but I started going a little bit backwards because I couldn't stay healthy.
And then, so how was the year at CU?
I wouldn't trade it for the world, man. What a dream. Like literally, like the guys, the entire team, the coaching staff, like, getting to run in the Mecca of Boulder and getting to put on like the black and gold, man, and the buff on your chest, and like literally so many runners dream of being able to run for CU, and to be able to like actually do it and make great relationships while I'm there and contribute to the team. I came on as a walk-on when I transferred, and then by the end of the fall season, like I was on scholarship, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dang.
So, and what an honor for like Coach Wetmore to like view you as worthy of scholarship.
That's sick. Damn. What a cool experience.
I'll be telling the grandkids about it for sure.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's awesome.
What differences were the training programs like pretty similar between FSU and CU, or like did you like one better than the other, or what did that look like?
I think both programs were good for me for the place I was in. And so I think now CU's training is working a little bit better for me, right? And Florida State's like helped me in my first 3 years, but then I started struggling. I couldn't do the workouts the right way because I I couldn't maintain fitness because I wasn't consistent enough because I wasn't healthy. But yeah, CU's training is a lot more geared towards like aerobic development. And that was what I feel like helped me this year. But Florida State's training, you know, the workouts were more difficult, but it just taught me to be tough, you know? And I think then when I really got to like step back and listen to my body more at CU, like that's really why I saw like a massive jump in progress, and I was able to run personal bests at every event discipline from the mile to the 3K and the 5 and the 10 all in one spring. That's just so cool.
That's sick. What like why do you think there's a difference in the programs? Like you'd think at like the top level everybody would sort of train the same. Like why do you think one's better than the other?
I think the NCAA is very, very system based, right? And because you kind of have to, right? You have a group of anywhere from 15 to 30 guys, depending on the university. And they're all like trying to do one thing. And obviously coach wants you to have training partners. So it's like, all right, we're going to have a system where everyone's training roughly the same with some slight differences. Some programs, it's like we only have 2 workout groups, and some programs we have 5 different workout groups. But whoever is kind of the best in the NCAA kind of reflects the best coaching system at the time. And so unfortunately, how it goes for a lot of people is they get put into the system and the system just doesn't work for them as well as it would for someone else. And so their performance suffers as a result of that. And then like you can start to develop a bad relationship with the sport and all that. Cause so
that makes sense. What were your, we probably should have mentioned this earlier. What are your like all-time personal bests for all your distances?
Yeah.
Cause they're pretty damn impressive.
I appreciate it. I've been in the sport for a while. So, I ran 29:12 for 10K on the track.
What pace is that per mile?
That's about 70 per 400. So 440 miles, 440 miles, almost exactly. Very
That's
close.
So fast.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. 10K was 29. What was it?
29:12. And then, for 5K, 13:56. And that's, I don't even know the pace on that. That might be like right on 430, maybe. Yeah, that's I can't exactly remember. But then in the 3K indoors, I ran like the equivalent of 808. I want to say it was an altitude conversion, so I don't have the exact numbers in my head. And then in the mile, I ran a converted 408. So I think it's like a 414 at altitude. I think I get 6 seconds from it, so I ran 408 converted. So
that's so fast.
It's again just been doing it for a long time, you know, and that's how you get better. It's long-term consistency.
Do you think anybody can do it?
You know, it's like if you start early enough, because like obviously like your body ages and things happen,
right?
But if you start early enough and you do like the training and you make the investments, then like I believe a lot is possible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there is a line. Maybe there is a line where it's like, okay, only some people can really like run under 410. But I like to think that with work, and time and investment, then you can get there.
Yeah, there's probably, I mean, for everybody, we have some kind of genetic limitation at some point, obviously. But like we're all so far from that, I think.
Right.
Like even, I mean, obviously somebody like you, like, has been doing it. Like you're probably so dialed in, so close to that peak potential. But I think people that just kind of like lackluster do some stuff, they're so far from it. But they just have the mindset of like, I can never get down to Paul Stafford's 408 mile. But like they've never even come close to trying to like, but they're putting in the miles and the hours and the work that it takes. So I like that mindset of just like, yeah, we have some limitations obviously, but like we're all so far from that, I think.
It really comes down to like diminishing return, you know,
right?
Like the gains that you see, you're going to see a lot at the beginning, right? Because you're new to it. Like a lot of changes are happening in your body. You're adapting quite a bit. But when you do it for years, like take an 800 meter runner, for example, they run 150 one year and they run 149 the next year. Great year. And just to take 1 second off. And then when you're fortunate like me to be able to take nearly a minute off your 10K,
that's a lot.
Then that's a lot. And then 19 seconds in the 5 in 1 year. But it wasn't just the year. It was all the years, right?
Yeah.
So.
Do you think training at altitude made that biggest difference? Or like just another year of experience helped, or like what do you think it was?
I think, a lot of people like to like put altitude as like a factor, and it's like, man, you're using the cheat code on us, like all that. But that is such a small factor in my mind compared to the work that's put in, because when you're at altitude, it's harder to recover. You can't run as fast in your workouts. So there's some limiting factors there. And like, when you're at sea level, you can recover optimally, and you can run those fast paces. And so, a lot of like the most intelligent minds in the sport, they like to say live high, train low in terms of altitude. But,
how would one do that?
Altitude tent. And so you sleep in, and this is like, and that's the thing, it's a professional resource, right? It's like, probably costs like a couple grand, like 5,000-6,000. I'm just throwing a number out there, I'm not really sure. You sleep in that at night, and then you live at sea level and you train at sea level. And so you got to get the adaptation from the
interesting
from the 8 hours or 9 hours that you're in there.
It's like those like oxygen depravation chamber, basically. So
in a way, it's kind of like a tent setup, like it's in it. I think it inflates, that kind of thing. And there's like some box that like regulates the.
Okay, I think I've seen those.
Yeah.
Dang, that's a commitment to sleep in one of those every night.
Because like it's. Your buddy comes over, like he's like, "Hey, can I crash the couch tonight?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then he's like, "Dude, what's that noise? Is that a generator?" It's like, and it's like your room's just like, just buzzing like crazy.
Or people that have like spouses that sleep in the same bed as their spouse or something. It's
good luck.
Yeah,
good luck.
That's a commitment. But maybe if your job is to become faster and like be an athlete, like it's a commitment to the job, I guess.
If it's in your contract to perform at the highest level, like. Take every advantage, they within reason. Then there's some people that push the boundaries in the sport, and that's where you get into doping and that stuff. But
what is your take? We kind of briefly talked about it this morning. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Those like altitude training versus heat training, because like Austin, it gets hot as shit in the summer. It's humid,
very much.
It's brutal. You have to dial back paces and stuff, but it is a different system than altitude. Like, do you know if one is better or worse, or if there's any similarities between the two?
Coming from someone that has only lived in two places, Florida and Colorado, right?
Kind of both of the extremes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really like a comparison as much as it is a separation. It's different. It's a different stimulus. And that's how I like to view it, and that's how I think a lot of people should view it. It's just touching on different things, like I think the cooling system of our body is like a lot more in play in humidity versus at altitude. At altitude, it's just, man, you're struggling because you don't have as much oxygen available, and so I think we need to separate those two, and it's not comparison.
Yeah. What does one? Do you know if one has more benefits than the other, from like a kind of a scientific standpoint?
Yeah, good point. I think it depends on what you're trying to do. Like let's say we're trying to run a marathon in Austin, then heat training is probably going to be significantly more beneficial to you than it would, if you're running a marathon in like grandma's in Minnesota, right?
Right.
So, prepare yourself for the demands of the event, like I said earlier, when it comes to that.
That makes sense. What about, okay, so like you, like obviously you're racing all over the country for cross country and track and college. So like, if you don't know, like say you have an event in Colorado and then you have another event in like, I don't know where you competed at all over, but like Nebraska or something where you're not at elevation, and you had to pick like, okay, do I want like from generalized fitness, could you pick one over the other, like heat training versus altitude?
I think the weather tends to be a lot better year round when you're at altitude. Just it's naturally cooler in Boulder,
Yeah.
And so I think, at least for me, and it's also a little bit of recency bias because things have been working. But summers in Boulder are beautiful. Like, right, it's like 50 something degrees and crisp every morning, and it's like
that makes sense.
It's great,
Yeah, I guess we'd have to determine like, and maybe it's just dependent upon each person. Like I know for me, for example, I mean, nobody does good in the heat, but I like completely blow up in the heat, but altitude doesn't affect me too much. So like, I guess it depends on probably each individual and like what their anatomy is of like, if they'd be better off getting the heat training and like a better adapted cooling system, or if they'd be better off at like altitude, I guess. Cause I'm sure each person reacts a little bit differently to each stimulus. And like, depending, like basically figuring out like what's your biggest crux, or like what's your biggest hindrance to your speed. Is it going to be like getting more efficient muscles with like oxygen debt, or developing your cooling system better? I guess that'd be the question.
I would say, yeah, or let's just say we're trying to run as fast as possible. And when you're trying to run as fast as possible, and this is like a lot of what professionals do, it's like they pick the right race. And so that's typically California night 5K. The weather's consistent. It's always going to be like the same.
Yeah.
And you come down from altitude, Flagstaff or Boulder, wherever you're at, or Park City maybe, 48 hours before the race, 72 sometimes even 24. And then you just run the race. And I think that's ideal. Like, that's how a lot of the programs do it, and when you're racing in collegiate competition, a lot of times the races that you're picking and the races that you're running are set up to be perfect for you. Like the meet directors organize the heats, so you're running with a lot of people that are around your ability level, so that way you're getting every boost of competition possible. And then the weather's perfect again, and just it's the meet Brian Clay in California. Just go look at the meet results for that meet, and you'll just see like tons of people just running sub 14. Like,
what's the name of the event?
Brian Clay Invitational, I think is what it's called, and it's at Azusa Pacific in California every spring. So.
And this is for is it just D1 like NCAA or
there's kids that are breaking 14 there that run Division 2, and it's
dang.
Like there's unattached people that are running there, and then there's people that are also contracted. They're professional athletes. It's like, if you can get into the meet, I think the standard might be 15 flat. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to look, but if you're under that meet standard and can get the entry, then you can go.
That's awesome. Dang, have you ran that one?
Yeah, and that's where my PR is from.
Nice.
And a lot of people's personal bests are from meets like that, and like the Stanford Invite. And then indoor, this is a whole nother discussion, but Boston University is known as like a significantly fast racetrack. Indoors,
interesting.
Something about the science behind how the track's designed.
Oh, yeah, like the banks on the turns or something.
Yeah. So this guy named Floyd Highfill, I think, way back in the day, he designed tracks, and the difference with this track is that it's asymmetric versus symmetric in terms of like the banking. And there's a whole long paper about it that you can find on the internet, and that breaks down why Boston University is so fast indoors. But yeah, and then some people will just say like, the track's short, like it's short. But then B responded to it, and we used to crack jokes about it being short all the time. Like, and they said, "Here's the measurement of the track," and it's like pretty dead on.
Yeah.
So
I wonder why other tracks wouldn't be built to mimic that if it's so much faster.
Well, they don't design asymmetric tracks anymore, and they use a steel subframe, so it makes the track more durable. And this track, plywood. So energy return, right? And so you get just a more bouncy effect from it. And so particularly in distance, that's really helpful. And so the plywood breaks down, and you have to like maintain it a little bit more. But when you want to have like a facility where it's like, okay, we can run every distance here, symmetric track, steel subframe. It's
that
like,
makes sense.
And then there's like hydraulic springs and stuff too. But but I think the plywood, like based off of BU's results, like I think that's just really the quickest thing.
Have you ran on that track?
I have, and I got a fever like 2 days before, so it was terrible.
That sucks.
But I ran like 14:50, but I was trying to run like under 14. It is not fun when you're having a bad day out there, man. People are going around you. It's a small track, so you can get lapped pretty easily.
That sucks.
So
damn.
Yeah.
What's your favorite race been that you've done? Do you have like one specific meet or race that you remember? it's like, that's the one.
I would break down the Pac-12 championship, and it's the last Pac-12 championship, right? We were hosting at CU, and the endurance community in Boulder is so like so into it that the entire town like came out. There were thousands of people there. And it's the end of the meet, and it's the 5K, right? And Kai Robinson, like national like champion, like he takes the lead. He runs for Stanford, and there's a great race going on like behind him, but gets into like 2 laps to go, and Colorado ran how Colorado runs. We run patient, and we worked our way to where we had 4 guys in scoring position in the top 8, and we were 2, 3, 4 with like a lap to go, and my teammate, my roommate Austin Vansel, he makes a move. My other teammate Grady Raba, he covers the move, and now the crowd sees this, and we run by a big alumni section of people that are all like Colorado track and field, and they start going nuts, and the place is just jumping, like spine tingling stuff, man.
That's sick.
You know, and
this is 5K?
This is a 5K, yes. And then bell lap happens. Austin and Grady run a fantastic race. Jake Darrowan has a phenomenal race behind as well. And we put 4 guys in the top 8 of the Pac-12 championship to close it out. And so, you know,
damn,
that's Colorado distance running, you know.
That's sick. Dude, what a cool experience.
I will never forget that one. Like the crowd was going crazy. Like so cool.
That's so cool. Dude, that's something like that competitive side of me is like, man, I wish I would have ran. I mean, I was never really that fast enough to like be at that level, but like even just in high school, like just to go like be at that level would be so sick. And just experience, like at that point, you're probably not even worried about the time. You're just like, just beat the person next to you, I would imagine, right?
Right, man. And that's kind of the beauty of the sport though, you know, because you can find niches and environments where it is electric in there. Like those major marathons, and and coming from someone like you that has ran a lot of like, you know, major marathons, it's just, you know how that environment is.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you keep coming back, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's pros and cons with it, because like, yes, in a marathon it's you versus you, unless you're, you know, like you're in the elite pack and you're trying to just beat the guy next to you. But I kind of miss that, because I played sports growing up, and it was always like, it doesn't matter how many goals we score in this game. It's just like, just beat the other team. If we beat them by 1 goal, it doesn't matter. If you beat them by 20, it doesn't matter. Just beat the other team. And I kind of miss that sometimes, because it's like in that environment when you're just like neck and neck with somebody racing, I'm sure it's just like exhilarating, because you're not necessarily trying to beat the clock or like set a PR, I would imagine. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're really just like, just beat this guy next to me. It's like in that moment you're pushing so hard.
It's so pure, and everyone there is a competitor as well, because they wouldn't be at that level if they weren't a competitor.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, yeah, it's awesome, man. I'm gonna miss collegiate competition for sure. And that was my last one, so it's a great way to like close things out.
This is a good segue. So like, what are you doing now that you're not running collegiately?
So I really have a passion for coaching and training, like just based off of this discussion, you know, like I'm clearly like very into it, and I want to help others, you know, because my high school coach, he made a big impact on my life, and I wouldn't have the experiences that I had without him. And so I started up a coaching firm, and it's called Blue Collar Endurance Training. And really some of this, like, you know, some of this knowledge that we're like sharing with each other on this, I'm really trying to push that out too. And I'm glad you've said it's like, you know, valuable and interesting, because I want people to see that, you know. And I think that's an issue with elite guys a lot of the time, is that they see things on social media and they trash it, but it's like, man, like you have the knowledge too, like push it out there, like make the video, you know. But some people are like, you know, too focused on their own training, and I understand. But yeah, Blue Collar Endurance Training, I'm really just trying to help high schoolers reach the level that I was at, and then people just trying to run their first marathon, or people that are just trying to get in shape. You know, everyone has like a level in this sport, and it is you versus you. It's you competing against yourself, and that's just
I like that.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I love the name Blue Collar. It just like, it has that vibe and the connotation of just like we were talking about earlier, just like shut up and do the work.
Yes.
And then show up tomorrow and do the work, and shut up and show up the next day and keep doing it, and just like just put your head down and like put your nose to the grindstone. That's like what blue collar, when I think of blue collar, that's what I think.
And that's like one of my favorite songs, by the way. Like, I don't know if you're a big Tyler Childers guy, but I
don't know if I've heard that. I know Tyler Childers.
Listen to it. Nose of the Grindstone, Tyler Childers, and it's by Tyler Childers and Our Vinyl or something.
Okay.
Awesome track. And I'm a big country music guy as well.
Nice.
So,
I gotta listen to that. I love that. Where'd you get the name blue collar? Like, what made you come up with that name? What was the inspiration?
The mentality, the mentality around the sport. Who's good? Not only in like the zoomed out perspective of like being better than people, but also who's good in terms of beating who they were yesterday. Well, it's the people that clock in, clock out, that working class mentality. And then the other tagline is world class endurance. So it's like, people that are coaches, Dylan Schubert and Carl Thiessen, which, by the way, Dylan just qualified for NCAAs in the 5K.
Oh, nice.
Awesome guy, awesome runner. But being a part of blue collar means that you have access to professional level resources in the sport, and then no trade secrets. And that's because we don't sell lies. We don't say, come to us, we'll help you PR in 6 weeks. Like, what? That's not how this sport works. It is compound interest. It's time spent. It's long-term consistency. That's how you get better. There's no trade secrets to getting better. And that's like, work wins. Let's work. It's like that kind of thing, man. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's like the get rich quick schemes where it's like, oh, I'll get you rich in 3 months.
Yeah,
it's like, there's no secret to it.
Yeah, and
there's no secret to this.
And I get really frustrated when I see those ads on Instagram for some things where it's like, take this supplement, you'll PR in 6 weeks or run your best mile, and I'm just like, you are just like straight up like lying to people. Like, that's not how you do it, Yeah,
it's a scam.
It's people are always like trying to like sell that rather than like really just be like genuine and honest. And what's honest is the actual work necessary.
Yeah. It plays into people's psychology and emotions, because everybody, who doesn't want instant gratification? Who doesn't want that quick fix of like, man, if I take this pill, I'm gonna be able to qualify for the Olympics. It's like, it doesn't work like that, but we all want that. And so people just play into that and give us these false hopes.
I know.
And then you just make $200 off somebody and they do it to the next person. It's like, it doesn't work.
It's just, I love seeing this happen, because I remember still when it happened to myself, whenever that mental switch flips and you get to the point where you now understand that, oh, like, it's what I did for like the past 4 months that helped me get better, and, oh, imagine how good I could be if what I did for the past 4 months, I did it for 2 years. Right. Wow. Like, I'm bought in.
Yeah.
And then the clocking in and clocking out, that's when that like intrinsic self-motivation, autonomy, that starts to come into play. And it's like game over from there. And that's when you have good athletes.
What's the like ideal customer base for you guys, or athlete base, I should say?
I would say a high schooler trying to run in college one day, right? But then also someone that's trying to run their first marathon and be like you, like someone that has completed a lot of marathons and ran a lot of sub threes, that type of person too. And then lastly, the person that's like really just trying to learn those values of like clocking in and clocking out every day and being consistent. So those three things are what I would really highlight the most in terms of who we can help.
Heck yeah. Okay, take me hypothetically. I ran 244 in Chicago last year. What would I need to do? And you probably have to maybe look at my past training or something, I would imagine. It's very subjective.
Yeah.
But like, what advice would you give me if I wanted to run 239 like next spring, like a year from now? Do you think that's possible?
I would ask the right questions. And you said 239?
Yeah, so I ran 244, which is like 6:16 a mile. And then 239, I think, is like 6:05 a mile. So shave 10 seconds off a mile, basically. Okay. Break 240.
I would have to observe you and your training a little bit more for sure, but I think you asked the right questions. What are your weaknesses? I think that's like the money question that you asked there.
Yeah.
But then also, like, what are your strengths? And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's keep doing that. Because like sometimes people get antsy a little bit, and it's, it's to the point where it's like, all right, I've I've like been doing this and this is working, but like I need to do more now. And it's like, hold on, let's get all the benefit out of this first. Let's keep repeating it and staying consistent and patient. And then, you know, once our gains start becoming like slimmer, then start asking those questions, right? And what can I tweak? Tweak is a good word there, because you're not completely flipping the script. And
Dang, man, I thought you were going to give me like some secret workout I could just do. And I'd be able to run 239.
Yeah. No, man. Yeah.
Does it work that way?
Actually, it's this workout, you know?
Damn, got my hopes up.
Yeah. Go buy my training plan, by the way, you know?
Then I'll find out.
Yeah. 6 weeks I'll PR for sure. Right.
Dang. Okay. So I basically just need to just run more. Do bigger workouts,
Yeah.
more workouts.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
because we coach this person, we can coach you too.
Yeah.
Like every athlete's a puzzle, as my coach says, and
Yeah.
everything's different.
How many people do you work with now, if you're open to sharing?
Yeah. Right now I'm working with 23 athletes right now.
And that's just you one-on-one?
Yeah, that's just me. And then my other coaches, they work with clients as well. And so it's cool because I'm watching them send great stuff to their athletes, and I'm like, man, like they're doing a great job. And it's like and motivating me as well. Like, man, I need to give something like that to my athletes now.
Yeah.
You know?
What is it all remote, or do you have anyone like in-person clients?
It's remote.
Okay.
It really is. And you know, and that's one of the challenges of online coaching. But it also works kind of in a way where it's like it's teaching that autonomy that like good athletes have. It's because I'm not going to be there to check your splits. I'm going to give you the best description possible. I'm going to give you the best definition of how to execute this, and then we can clarify if things still don't make sense. But it's you out there, and if you have your you know, your buddy out there timing you, that's cool. But most of the time it's teaching autonomy.
Yeah.
And that's arguably like the best tool, teaching
100%.
someone to do it themselves.
Yeah, I find like with people I coach, kind of my goal I set for myself is like give them all the information and tools necessary so that they could go do this without me basically.
Right.
Like they could do it on their own if they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, some people, it's like, it's good to have like that coach and the team aspect and the accountability partner and like being able to ask questions. And like we were talking about earlier, like being as much the accelerator as like the brake pedal, and like knowing when to push and pull and like, you know, adjust on the fly. That's definitely super valuable, but also giving them the tools so they could kind of self-regulate sometimes too.
And that's like, once that can be taught, that's really like where like the magic happens. It's like once I got to the point where I could kind of be my own brake pedal, and my coach was also my brake pedal, like, cause sometimes like, you know, athletes get stubborn, especially the good ones.
Yeah.
They're like, dang man, like I need this 6th mile. And it's like, nah, we're good. You know, like that's where a good coach comes in.
So a lot of, I mean, the remote coaching, the challenge then is like, I guess getting good feedback from the athletes.
That's important.
And trusting that, because if you can't be there in person to watch their effort, watch their face and stuff like that during a workout, like I guess you just have to rely that they're giving you good feedback.
Yes. And you know, it's like when you're coaching, it's not just the eyes, it's the ears too. You know, like not only does the athlete look good, but do they sound good? And I think that's one that people overlook a lot, you know? So yeah, man, it's in the absence of that, you really need to be able to like dial in. Again, it goes back to the definitions and the communication. And it's like, you know, I always try to give longer answers for my athletes, and I try to make sure that it's helping them. Like I'm like, I'll give the answer and I'm like, does that help? You know, I always ask that follow up. It's it's important.
Are there specific things in like the data of their workouts that you look at that like if maybe they say, oh, that workout felt great, but then you see something in the data and you're like, did it though? Like look at you're struggling here or something.
The splits tell a story.
Yeah.
And you know, so if I give 5 by mile 90 seconds rest, then it's like, okay, all right, 525, 525, 525, 525, 525. And it's like, great, man, that was a college level execution there. And I'll tell them, I'm like, good execution. Like that's what they did well on, you know, like I try to tell them when they're doing things that I like to see. I love, it's one of the greatest feelings in coaching when you assign a workout virtually and then the kid gives you back the splits and everything's within a second or two.
Yeah.
I'm like, this kid is not only is he dialed in, but he's bought in, you know.
Dang.
The belief is a big thing. And so I really want athletes to be able to believe in me and my other coaches and what I'm giving them. And the ones that do, man, it's cool when they run well.
Yeah, establishing that trust and like putting your trust into the coach that says, okay, I don't know if this workout's going to help me or not, but I just trust that it is because the coach says it is.
And then providing a why really helps as well. And, you know, I always leave the window of communication open. I'm like, hey, man, if you want a why, please ask, because you're a bad coach if you can't provide a why behind what you're assigning. And so I know coaches that like they'll have athletes do certain drills, and an athlete asks, okay, why are we doing this? Coach can't come up with an explanation.
Yeah.
And let's ditch that drill, you know?
Yeah, that video you made on that was so good.
Thank
it
you.
Was it was like, well, I think I wrote it down. 3 things. If your coach does these 3 things, you should probably find a new coach.
Right. Yeah.
Do you remember what the 3 things were?
Yeah. So if they use science as a crutch, you know, they try to over-explain things, talk over you, rather than make things understandable. That's like a no-no. And then, shoot, I can't remember the other
secrets.
Yeah, it's if they tell you there's like a secret workout to be becoming faster, then that's a no-no as well. You know, every coach knows that there's no special or secret workout to the to becoming faster. And then, yeah, just the why, like we talked about before.
Yeah, being able to provide a reasoning.
Yes.
Rationale.
Yes. Reason.
I like that. Yeah, dude. There's, especially in the age of like influencer coaches, bro. Dude, some of these people, I'm like, you should not be coaching people. You should not be helping people.
Yeah. Yes. It's like you got to be able to give the why.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna help too. It's gonna give the kids more buy-in. Like, you know, it's gonna give the first time marathoner an understanding of what they're gonna go through, and then it's gonna give the person that's just getting started and doesn't know anything. It's gonna give them, you know, it's okay. This is the start. This is the foundation, and they know why they're doing this at the start.
Right.
You know, all those pieces.
What are speaking of no secret workouts? What are like some of your favorite workouts? Again, just because probably the majority of this audience is like marathon runners.
Yeah.
Like, what are some? I guess this is actually a question I have.
Yeah.
Because I haven't been in the running space that long. Like, obviously, there's a number of workouts you can do for a marathon, and each one has a different, like, okay, this is like more VO2 max or threshold or whatever. Like, do you know, like, how would you structure a typical marathon build from like a workout perspective of like this many times a month we're gonna do like a threshold or a tempo session or like VO2 max? Like, how would you kind of structure that?
Depending on the goal, a lot of the time people can run a marathon PB off of purely aerobic focus and neuromuscular development / maintenance. And it's very rinse and repeatable, that kind of thing. The aerobic system, like I said earlier, is the primarily the dominant energy system in play when you're running something as long as a marathon. And so it's just like, you know, just developing that piece. It's not overly complicated. So the way you do it is, you know, run a long run at like 70%, 75, maybe. Conversational but labored. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'll say conversational but labored long run. And yeah, that's just, it is a phenomenal tool for developing the aerobic system. And I say tool because it's not the only thing. You know, there's plenty of ways you can get creative. Like, you know, run 90. We talked about this earlier. Run 90 minutes and then do some stuff, right, for 25 to 30 minutes. Like do 8 by 2 minutes or something like that. And you know, you've been on your feet for 90 minutes, so that makes it more race specific because you're going to be on your feet for a long time in the marathon.
Right. And
then now you're trying to run well after that.
When you're programming stuff, like say I want to run 2:39, are you giving me, okay, run again like the Yasso 800s, like run these 800s at this specific pace using like the VDOT calculator or something, like the conversions and stuff?
Yeah, so I don't like to rush. And so I think if I know the athlete and I know what they're capable of, I'm like, yeah, I can dial that in a little bit more. But a lot of the time it's zooming out and just being like really just tuned into your body and what your body's ready to do. You know, it's right. You got to listen and you can't rush it. And so I'll assign things that I think are going to bring them closer to 239. But when it comes to specific work, if I don't think it's going to like work, I'm not going to give you the 239 stuff.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So
what's like just give me an example marathon workout like you'd give me. Say we're like 2 months out from the marathon and I'm trying to train for like 239. What's like an example workout?
You would want to, first of all, if you want to start off your long run, right? And you also want to be practicing fueling while you're doing that, because you want to, or not practice fueling because you're trying to simulate depletion, which is very common in the marathon. People like a lot of people reach depletion.
I've heard a lot of controversy. Let's talk about that after this.
Yeah. So I would give, probably like go for an hour, right? And let's say this person's probably trying to, they're going to be around for. Sorry.
Hey, come here. Cole, come here.
Sorry about that.
Cole, come here. Come here. Hey.
He's licking my hand.
Come here. Gosh.
Okay. So, what was the question?
Just like a sample workout for like marathons.
Okay.
That you'd like assign to me or anybody trying to get faster in the marathon.
Mm-hmm. I would go with, let's do this one. And this is something that is really cool because you get to zoom out a little bit and just kind of throw pace out the window. And it's challenging, it's psychological, and there's a lot of actually physiologically not so much, the uphill long run. And I think, and this is kind of limiting depending on location, but you can also be creative and you can do it on a treadmill. You can create a challenging treadmill route, and a lot of treadmills have that function where that's possible. But it really challenges you up top. And Renato Canova, who's a phenomenal marathon coach, he works with a lot of these Africans and whatnot, and the training's very hard. So his program's not for everybody, but I think this is a great tool because it's just testing the mind, and the marathon is so much like the long climbs really help you focus. You have to lock in if you're doing like a 3 kilometer climb, like mid long run, where it's just steep and you're not going fast and you just have to put one foot in front of the other. I would say that's a great marathon workout. If you're trying to run 239, but then
how would you structure that workout?
I would say just go out, and we'll use me for an example. The gradient determines how fast you actually go. So pace is almost out the window here, right? And that just that shows like pace isn't always everything. And you run at that like very uncomfortable effort, or not very uncomfortable, but like slightly uncomfortable for the entire time. And so you're out on your feet close to the amount of time that you're running the marathon. And it's very, I'm big on the mental challenges for the marathon because I think that's one of the biggest humps, So
okay, if you were to like write this workout down on paper, how would you?
Sorry.
No, I get it because it's so subjective to each person. But like if you were to, like if you're coaching me and you like programmed it into whatever you use to program workouts, how would you write that workout down? Just like 3 or 2.5 hours uphill run?
Yeah, 2.5. I mean, I would go 2.
Okay.
I wouldn't go up to 2.5.
And I should match marathon effort.
Not marathon effort as much as it is like we want to be uncomfortable, but it's not our pace that's making us uncomfortable as much as it is the venue that we're doing it at.
Okay.
Let the venue be the challenge there.
Okay. Dang, I feel like I would injure myself because I wouldn't know like how hard to push. I guess I don't know.
It's really like it's almost like a little bit of it's safer almost because going uphill, right? It's not full extension and you're pounding less going uphill than you are downhill.
How do I get back down the hill? Do I just run down?
Well, you plan, plan your route accordingly. Yeah, that kind of thing. But in E10 in Kenya, the way that they do it, it's a point to point. And so they like drop off, pick up type. So I guess in terms of practicality, that's kind of difficult. But yeah, anyways.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Why do you like running so much?
It applies to all of life, and the work that you just put in it feeds back. Even if it's 5 years later, I think that's the cool thing about it. Is like I didn't see progress in the 10K for a significant amount of time, but I stayed in it and I showed up, I clocked in, I clocked out every day, working class, and I got the result, and now I'm like hungrier than ever. I'm going to go back into training and probably do 4 months of foundational patient work, just like I'm preaching. That's what I'm going to execute myself, before I even start looking at other races.
Yeah. So it's just like the metaphor, I guess, for the rest of life. Show up and work.
The metaphor. Okay. Absolutely.
I like that.
Yes.
So are you drawn more to like the physical side of running or the mental side?
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Right. You're bettering yourself physically, but then the mentally challenging aspect of it, it's euphoric, man. Yeah. Like you finish something hard and the feeling that's going through your head, your eyes are wide, your teammates are coming to dap you up, like that kind of thing. It's just like, wow, like it, and then it keeps you coming back and it makes you want to do work for like more years just for that one moment. So cool.
It gets so addicting.
Yeah, it is a drug. It is. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, a lot of people I have on the podcast were like former drug addicts. Like I had a guy last week or 2 weeks ago, I think, whatever it was, like a heroin addict and coke and meth and just like down the very different path than he is now. And now he does marathons. He runs like a 240 marathon. He's like pretty fast. But there's so much correlation, I think. And there's so many similarities where in the addiction side of things with running that I think is so fascinating, that it just draws so many people. Because I think we all have to be addicted to something. I mean, you could be addicted to Netflix or addicted to food or whatever it is. So like, why not pick something? Maybe you don't get to always pick your addictions, I guess, but try to find something that is going to be better for you. Because running, as uncomfortable and hard as it is, you could definitely get addicted to it.
And it's the accessibility of it. Like anyone, some people may have nicer shoes than the other, and some people may have like nicer gear, nicer watch, but anyone can get out and go run, and be consistent in that. So the other extra things help, but
and it's such a primal thing. Like, I mean, humans have been running. Like, you don't really, once you become like, you're inconsistent, you don't have to really think about it. Like, you're not fully thinking of like, okay, put this foot here and this foot here. It's just like it's instinctual, I think, because it's such a primal, like, human activity. I mean, we did it for survival and hunting and all this stuff, running from predators, whatever. Right. And so it's like in all of us, which I think is so cool. And I don't know if you can really say that about a lot of other things, like activities. It's like, I mean, I don't think cave people were like snatching or like power cleaning. It's like such a technical movement you have to learn, but running, it's like, you don't really have to necessarily learn how to run. Obviously you can learn like the systems and the workouts, but like the act itself of running is in all of us, which I think is so cool.
Yeah. Everybody's unique, and the movement patterns are unique, that's why we have gait analysis, things like that. That's really cool. Man, it's just, it's super sick to see that motor learning occurs in different ways for everybody. My feet, whenever I trail back, my feet curve in. I'm pretty bow-legged, but then there's other people that are massive heel strikers, and then there's some people that are on the top of their toes for an entire run, and I'm just like, how do you do that? So everyone's their own machine, and it's so cool.
Yeah, how much do you pay attention? I get this question all the time of like, how fix my running form. And I'm like,
that's a great one.
It's like, it's so subjective. So what do you say when people are like, what's the perfect running form?
Run more. It really is run more. Motor learning occurs in your body, and you start off sloppy, and you are going to be like, you're going to have a lot of inefficiencies that are like wasted movement, wasted energy. But then it gets to the point where you do it more. Your body works, and this is like so cool how this happens. Your body works out the inefficiencies without you really having to do anything. Because you just get a lot better at it. It's no secret to fixing your form, man. Just run more.
Yeah, man, there's all these influencers, these damn influencers on Instagram, dude. It's like they're like posting videos of like, you need to run like this, and this is how you fix your form, and make sure you do this. And I'm like, you can't. There's no one size fits all.
There's no one exercise either. It's no certain pair of shoes.
Right. Yeah. Just do more of it. You just keep showing up.
Yep.
I like that. Okay, I'm glad. That's always been my answer to people when they ask me that. I'm like, just go run more. Your body's gonna figure it out on its own.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear somebody like you that's been doing it in like high levels would agree with that. That's
right.
reassuring for myself.
Yeah. And unfortunately, when we do get asked that question, people look at it as like, man, that's a half-assed answer. But like, look at the experience of who's like telling you that.
Yeah.
You know, and so people will ask me, how do I get faster? It's like, show up, like do it. And it's, that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear the workout, So, hopefully someone watches this and they actually take that message. Cause we've been really like bringing it home. And I love that. I think hopefully someone like it hits somebody.
Yeah, I think it will. Definitely.
Yeah.
Again, it's the answer nobody wants to hear, but it's the reality.
No trade secrets.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, so for you, what's like, I mean, you're not competing collegiately, like we said. What's the move? Like, are you going to try and run like professionally now? Or what's that look like?
So in terms of my competitive running, I really, like I said, I'm going to train for 4 months, just purely foundational stuff. And, then I'll start to maybe put a race on my calendar. But I'm half Puerto Rican. My mother's Puerto Rican.
Nice.
So hopefully represent Puerto Rico in World Cross Country 2026. And that's at my home course. That's at Florida State. So I'd be able to go back home and do that. And that'd be so cool.
Is there a standard you have to run for that? Or how do you qualify for that?
It's more so, it depends on the federation and the country. But, it's team selection, truthfully. And so whenever I perform like well again, because I'm going to do the work to make that possible in the next track season, and I'll do well in some road races, because I'll make sure that I'm prepared for that. Then they'll take notice, and I'll communicate with whoever I communicate with, and it'll take place.
Nice.
I have a teammate at CU that's also Puerto Rican as well, Brendan Frazier. So it's it's awesome to it'll be cool to potentially run on the world stage with one of my teammates representing like the same country. He's also Puerto Rican as well.
Dang. So even though you're American, you could run for Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I'm in terms of like bloodline, I'm
that's cool.
50%. My dad's from Kentucky. Big basketball country, and my mom's from Caguas, Puerto Rico. So
nice. That's awesome. Dang, I would have assumed you'd have to like that'd be your nationality. Like you'd have to like live, like be a Puerto Rico like resident or something.
Right. Yeah. If you have a family member that usually it's like a mom or a dad that is from there, and that's in their blood, then you can absolutely represent
That's
them.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dang. Is that the like dream race, you think? Like, do you have any bucket list events or anything you want to do?
Every race brings kind of a unique aspect. And I think that's what's really cool. It's like the Boston Marathon is so cool, but then the NCAA championship and the Pac-12 championship, that's so cool on its own scale. And I don't think it's a comparison either on like large and small. It's just, I haven't really answered that question for myself yet.
Yeah. Do you have any desire to do marathons?
One of these days, I will. It'll happen, and I know it's going to happen. But it's really just I have a lot left in like the shorter stuff, like the 5 and the 10. I know I have a lot left. I know I'm capable, and so I want to give that the attention it deserves and play it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like kind of the trajectory most distance runners take. Yeah, they do like 5K, 10K, high school, college, a couple years like professionally or however long, and then transition to the marathon. Or trail running or ultras or something eventually.
You got it.
I mean, it makes sense, I guess. And it's from what I know about like the fast twitch, slow twitch muscle fibers is like the older you get, typically the more slow twitch, because there's always like a ratio, I think, of fast to slow.
Right.
The older you get, the more slow twitch you get, which will help you more in the marathon. I think.
Yeah. When it comes to like something highly aerobic like the marathon, the slow twitch does help.
Yeah.
But you want to keep the brain body connection between the fast twitch fibers, and so that's why it's so important to keep them stimulated in training. Do your do your hill bursts 6 seconds, do your 100-meter strides, and just do them twice a week. Otherwise, you'll kind of lose that connection.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite between 5K, 10K?
Maybe it's what I'm better at the time. Maybe it's what my most recent personal best is at. I think, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this with like the longer stuff, but I think when I put a great 10K together, it feels a lot more, because the race strategy for a 10K is very much a work of art. You are literally on a tightrope between like just spiking and just dying,
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's like the perfect distance almost.
Yeah.
For like your threshold.
Yeah, it's very much so like there.
Yeah, the line
it's right
is
on it.
so thin.
Right. But when you put a marathon together, that also
That's
is
true.
such a slippery slope, because
Yeah.
a marathon is long enough to where there are good and bad patches
Yeah.
like that are extended, and it's once you get into the longer races, it is art,
Yeah.
like how you run those races.
Are you intrigued more by that, or do you like just the pure? Like, I mean, they're both sprints, really, but like the 5K is even more of a sprint, obviously.
Yeah, it's fast from the gun, and it clips off, and you get to 1.5 miles, and people are going off the back.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to hang on to that like pack, because if you find yourself in no man's land, then they're just going to continue to wind it up and get faster, and you're going to be by yourself, and you can't maintain that pace by yourself as easily.
Yeah.
It's running in a pack is much more efficient.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to hold pace when you're there.
Yeah. And a 5K is, I mean, it's short enough. Like, it goes by quick, but at the same time, it's like, it feels like a long time that you're out there sometimes.
Right.
Like, it's enough time that you have to think. I feel like in a mile or, 800 meters, like, you don't really have time to think, really.
It's
Maybe like a little bit, but not a lot.
Thinking in the 800 is almost a death sentence, right? Because you think too much. Someone stepped on your heels, you're falling.
Yeah.
You're going down. And thinking in the 1500, it's almost the same thing, but you can't think for too long. I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
And when it gets as short as the 800, then it starts to become like instinctual decision making, and you have to be conscious about that in training, right?
Yeah, it's because the margin for error is so much smaller. I mean, they're all really across all of them, but the longer the distance, it's like if you go out a little bit too fast in a 5K, the first 100 meters, like you could maybe recover from that, I think, right? Because you have enough time or distance to make up or whatever. But yeah, I'm curious, like in a 5K, 10K, when it does start to get hard, like what do you tell yourself?
You can either zoom in or you can zoom out. And so if you're zooming out, then look at your position. Where are you at? Ask yourself, is that good? That's zooming out for me. Whenever you're zooming in, ask the questions, okay, how are my legs doing? Are they all right? Can they sustain? And depending on the person, it changes. Like different things give different people confidence mentally. I think that's really like the biggest thing, like know when to zoom in and know when to zoom out.
Yeah.
And then also sometimes there's just one word that you can tell yourself to produce a specific response from the body. And this is where good coaches come into play. It's like they've repeated something to you in practice. And so for Mark at CU, calm mind. And so when I get to the point in the 5K where it's like, okay, things are starting to wind up, I'm getting antsy. Do I go to the front? I run by Mark. Calm mind. And I know from there, like, I'm good. Dial in. Like, stay. Like, brake pedals, right? Or not brake pedals, but patient pedals. How about that?
I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you find that the 10K is more of that just because it's a longer distance? Like, you have more time to kind of go through all these things in your head?
Yes. The 10K, and there's this is hilarious. Or actually, it's not. It's not funny. It's not funny at all. It's you run the first lap of a 10K, and then there's that one guy when you cross the start line, and he's like 24 to go. I feel like everyone that has run a track 10K has experienced that.
There's somebody in the pack yelling that?
No, or like someone in the crowd, or like some official that's just like, everyone's throwing birds towards him, like at that point, I feel like shut up, man. I don't want to hear that.
Dude, I think every marathon I've done, there's a sign at like mile 3 and it's like, you're almost there.
Oh,
like, shut up. It's like, it's funny. It makes you laugh, but it does make you think of like, oh my gosh, we still have 23 miles.
And it's just like, do not tell me that.
Yeah.
Do not tell me that.
Interesting. That's funny. Yeah. I don't think I've ever done an all out 10K. I've only done one all out 5K and it was rough.
There's some cool 10Ks out there.
Have you done Boulder?
No, I haven't, but it was literally just in Boulder and the environment was absolutely electric in Boulder when it was going on. So that was so cool, man.
I think it's the biggest 10K in the country, if not one of the biggest. It's huge. It's like so many people.
Yeah, you have Peachtree in Atlanta probably. That's probably the largest, and Boulder's probably second. They're both massive races. And
there's a huge one in I think like Charleston too. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, is it the Cooper Bridge run?
The bridge.
Yeah, one of my old teammates, Ahmed Muhammad, ran at that race. I remember.
Nice.
He finished really well. That was super cool.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm curious what how long we've been going for? 2 hours? Okay.
I don't even know.
Got like one question.
Yeah, you're good.
How have you seen? So you've been in running since you were 4th grade, the running world. Mm-hmm. I'm curious how you've seen the sport of running grow or change. Just 'cause it seems like, especially like on my side of things with like Instagram and social media, like more people getting into it, or like, have you seen it change at all in the last like decade plus?
100%. And you can even see it changing based on the niche of the sport that you're in or the area. I think from the youth and developmental side of the sport, it's shifting a lot towards Olympic development style training at a younger age. And that comes with what's been going on recently where now NCAA athletes can be paid. And that's like groundbreaking, and it changes the entire dynamic of college athletics. And honestly, college athletics might not be around much longer,
really?
Because I mean, that's the direction it's headed. It's headed towards now this is professional sport. And so the people with professional resources and the people that are doing like professional level stuff, they're going to be in position to get those spots on those teams that get paid. And then when you look at like the marathon side of the sport and the half marathon side of the sport, there's people that they realize like, man, like I can do a half, and it's becoming, there's a lot more of a social aspect to it. Run clubs are bigger than ever.
Oh, they're crazy.
They're bigger than ever. And it's fun, and people are making it fun. And it's a great way for you to get the work done, because it's hard when you're by yourself. And when I was in Ethiopia back in 2021, someone like said something, and it's like, if you want to go farther, go together. And you've probably heard that before as well.
The slogan for Switchback is farther together.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's unreal.
I mean, it's so true though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go. It's like we kind of stole it from another saying. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Mm-hmm. It's like that same mindset. But anyways, yeah, that's cool that you've seen that change. Do you think it's for the better, or because some people are like, oh, because it's like with anything. It's like there's the OG like hipster kind of people. They're like, oh, it's too mainstream now. Like, what's your take on it? Do you think it's good or bad for the sport?
I think it depends on what you want, and if it's against what people want, because everyone's going to do what they want.
Yeah.
If it's against that, then of course they're going to criticize it. There are a lot of people that just use so much of their energy in the day to just hate. And I'm just like, all right, man, while you're using that energy doing that, I'm going to go and try and better myself. And you probably say the same thing.
100%. Yeah. It's just wasted energy. It doesn't do any good for anything.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if it's getting more people out exercising, being healthier, like physically and mentally, I'm all for it. I don't care. I don't care if it's too mainstream. And I'm definitely more of one of like, I don't like mainstream things too much. But if it's making people better, like, then why not?
And it's so good for your long-term health.
Oh, definitely.
And sedentary lifestyle has been a massive reason why people like deal with like health issues and things like that. And if you just do like some aerobic training, like it doesn't have to be difficult, but it's consistent. It's just, when you are like older down the road and things start to pile up on top of each other, that's probably because like you didn't like use the abilities that you had to make yourself healthier.
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes it's more than just like the community aspect or the competing aspect. Like, just do it for your health and for you.
Right.
It's your body.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big motivation for myself. Is like, I don't want to be that 70-year-old that's like can't walk around and take care of themselves.
Right. You want to be that 70-year-old that's like still able to go do his local 5K.
Yeah.
Or you're still able to get out the door and run.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
I
you want
love
to be
that.
like, dang, man, he's 70, he's 70, he's still going at it, like.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal, I guess, at least. Do as long as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like our lifetime, we're going to see some like, I mean, even there was like a 73-year-old that did like a 100-miler like a few weeks ago. Or no, it was the Cocodona 250. It's a 250-mile race through Arizona. It was like a 73-year-old that did it or something. Ran 250 miles.
What?
That's nuts.
And that's impressive. That's extremely impressive. And that's the cool thing about the sport. There's different levels of achievement in different spaces, and all those can like wow people.
Right.
Same way that like maybe my 5K would wow some people, and maybe the same way that you like when you complete the Bighorn 100.
Yeah.
Whenever you complete that, like that's gonna wow people.
Yeah.
70-year-old doing that same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's no matter what, like I think people don't give themselves enough credit for like how inspiring they are. Like if you go run a marathon in like 4 hours, a lot of people might not think that's impressive. But like to somebody that's never ran a mile, they'd be like, you ran 26 miles? Like they're not even going to care how long it took you. They're just like, you ran that far?
Yeah.
Or whether it's a 5K, whatever it is, it's like, I don't know. People, I don't think give themselves enough credit for how much they actually do. Because we're in like such this like echo chamber of running and fitness and athletics and stuff that like, somebody ran 30 minutes slower than you in the 5K. It's like, whatever. But like to somebody that's not in this world, it's like, it's all about perspective, I think.
Yeah. The same way, you have your coworkers,
right?
Or you have your family. Like when you complete a marathon, you're impressing or inspiring your circle. Like that's one of the greatest parts about it for sure.
Heck yeah. I love that. Dude, did we cover everything?
I don't even know.
Anything we missed?
Yeah.
I think we got everything. I didn't really talk about nutrition. I am curious about your nutrition. Okay. I think that's kind of the last thing I think I had on here, but what's nutrition look like for you?
It depends on the time. So nutrition in a foundational phase is going to look a lot different than your nutrition when you're really trying to like run at your best. Early on, we're trying to improve our power to weight ratio. And this is something that's really like specific and dialed in. And I only recommend doing something like this if you have a dietitian to work with, like a lot of Power 5 universities do. Because if you don't do it right, like again, back to the tool, not a crutch thing, then it can cause some like mental things that really, we don't want that to happen. We want to have people to have a positive experience. So anyways, for me, let's say I'm getting ready to really try to like run at my best. I'm going to be eating a lot of complete proteins that are on the leaner side of things. And then I'm going to be eating high energy dense carbs.
What are some examples of those?
Yeah, great question. So chicken, complete protein. High energy dense carbs, you go brown rice, right? Potatoes, things like that. Then healthy fats, okay? Avocado, eggs, things of that nature. And then just something good for you. So those 4 pieces. Yeah. Those 4 pieces, you put those together in a day, and then you zoom out and look what you had: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between with your snacks. Wow, like that's a good diet, and that's how like when I'm really getting close to competition, that's what it looks like.
Do you track calories, or do you eat kind of more intuitively?
Intuitively, it's okay. Let's say I weigh $130, right? I try to get as much protein as I can, as close to that in grams, but your body only uses like 20 an hour, so it's just try.
I think that's actually been, I might be wrong, I think there was a recent study that showed basically that they haven't been able to find an upper limit for protein consumption or absorption.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because I think they thought it was 20. I might be wrong on this. I need to like fact check this.
Yeah, it's all good.
I think they said it's like at least 100 grams that your body can actually utilize
in the span of a day.
It was like per hour, I think, or like per meal, basically.
Okay.
And then but they're theorizing that there might not be an upper limit essentially, because
Okay.
the idea was like, oh, your body's only going to use 20 grams of the protein, and then it's going to like pee out the rest or something, or wherever it goes, like goes to waste essentially.
Okay.
But I think they disproved that. I don't know. I need to look into it. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's one of the things about coaching though. You same way the athlete's running every day, you've got to be like doing your research every day.
Yeah.
Same way you put shots up in the gym if you're a basketball player.
Right.
Walk the same street that the athlete's walking. I think Mike Smith said that, which is that's one of my favorite pieces, and he's one of the greatest coaches in the world right now.
Yeah. Do the thing that you're teaching other people to do.
Yeah.
And learn about it.
Yeah, fully.
Invest. Yeah. Nutrition. Okay. And then I think basically you said that 5K, 10K, you don't have to really fuel intra runs, right?
Yeah, nothing mid-race really. I would say right like before the race, obviously I'm having like a carb snack that can be easily absorbed, and then some people do caffeine. I like caffeine. I use a Nurza. It's like my buddy that ran at Lipscomb, he actually created that product, and it works really well, man. I'm really proud of him. He's done great work with that. Nice. So I'm glad that I can use something my buddy has been doing. But
what about like supplements?
Supplements, yeah. So vitamin D is something I stick with. Zinc, magnesium, usually like 30-60 minutes before bed. It's good for muscle recovery and immune. Vitamin C, and then let's see, what am I? Oh, iron. Yeah, and
that's a big one for runners, I think.
Yes, it is. And, you pound so much, and like if you become like deficient, and so I actually got to the point where probably somewhere in my sophomore year, my ferritin was like down to 13, which is like extremely low for a male.
What does ferritin do?
So it's like kind of your iron storages.
Oh, okay.
In a way. Yeah. So it was really low, and so I was sleeping 9 hours, and then I was napping during the day, and I was still tired. Dang. And I was doing workouts, and the beginning of workouts, I would really just be falling off in the beginning of the workout. I couldn't even do them. And so then we get a blood test, and we realize, oh, here's what's going on. Let's fix sense. It.
So iron supplement.
Iron, absolutely.
You eat like more red meat.
Great when you can do that. Yeah. Like a lot of people just don't eat enough of it, so it's just like, your body can absorb that like very well. So red meat too.
Yeah, dude, that's like all I eat. I eat so much beef.
Nice.
And like steak.
Yeah,
I love it.
Great.
And it has so many vitamins and nutrients. It's like definitely complete. I mean, chicken also good, turkey, all that stuff. Any kind of like meat, just protein specifically.
Right.
It's like for all the vitamins and minerals and whatnot.
We're constantly damaging.
Yeah.
We need that to rebuild.
What about do you do like for your this is what I want to talk about. The like fasted or like depletion runs, basically like doing like a 20-mile run, like depleting your nutrition, like not refueling or like minimal refueling. What's your take on that? Because I've heard very mixed things. Some people say it's like, oh, that's an outdated way of training because you're just gonna like delay your recovery. But some people say, oh, it's good because you're teaching your body to be more fat adapted. Like, what's your take on that?
So fuel manipulation, it's a tool, right? It's a tool you have to use both sides of it, because one, we want to make sure we're getting the work in and like we're properly fueled so we can recover and we can come back and stack more consistent work. But on the other side, we want to simulate how the race is going to be. And so if we're doing a long run where we're not fueling at all, or we're fueling minimally, then we need to leave space before and after in training, so that way we can not dig ourselves in a hole.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So just know what you're changing and how that impacts your recovery in the days after and in the days of preparation.
Yeah. Do you do any of that yourself?
I haven't been doing long enough races to really like dive into that. And so a lot of my long runs, again, like, 6:10 pace, 18 miles, that's probably the one I've done most consistently in this past year. That's pretty like, I don't fuel mid run. Now before the run, I do have like tea and bread with like, some honey and whatnot. But it's also like we're going a little bit faster, so I can't have something too heavy. Right. But yeah, afterwards though, oh my gosh, we're really trying to pound like the protein and refueling and whatnot. We're very intentional about that. And I love that when you have a good team environment, it's like, hey man, where's your protein at, dude? Come on. Like we're pushing each other.
Yeah.
You know?
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely more on the side of like doing more depletion runs. A lot of people don't like it, but it works great for me. Like we were talking about this morning, like when I did the like VO2 test, they showed me the like carbs to fat burn ratio, and I was like super fat adapted. And I think a lot of it is eating like one, a high fat diet, and then two, having like a lot of those like fasted depletion type runs where you're consistently kind of under fueling, but then like during the run and teaching your body like, okay, if we don't have carbs available, we're going to like switch on to fat and like get more efficient at that. But then like you said, I think the key part is just almost like gorging yourself after the workout and just like shoveling a ton of calories in to replenish. But I think there's benefit to doing the run in a depleted state.
Yeah. It's give and take, and you are your own puzzle, right? And so you know like how that works for you. But then when it comes to, things we want to stay away from, that's like the trendy diets. That's that's when it's like a keto, for example.
Yeah.
There's things that show that it's great in the short term, but I'm going to go back to Sam Milan. Like he always says that like keto and fad diets, those are not sustainable for long-term performance.
Especially for performance, yeah.
Yes, long-term performance. So yeah, it's really important to like know like those things as well, because nutrition's balance, man. And so when I gave like probably my ideal diet leading up to a big performance, like you look at that's balanced, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
dang, do you have any cheat meals?
Voodoo donuts. Voodoo.
I love voodoo.
Oh really?
Yeah, we have one here. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I might have to hit that on the way out.
Yeah, it's downtown. It's not far from where you're at.
Yeah, my favorite's the Old Dirty Bastard. That's my favorite.
Ooh, what's that one?
So it's like a donut with chocolate frosting and then peanut butter drizzle, and then there's like Oreos all over it. It's
nice.
top tier. Like that is S for sure. And my teammates can attest to this. I've probably consumed like I've definitely averaged 1 ODB a week. Like for like. But I was getting
that's not that crazy, really.
Yeah.
1 a week.
Okay, I lied. There's been some weeks where it was like I had like 3, but like, and it made me feel like I was having fun.
Yeah.
And I think in a very dialed lifestyle, like a collegiate athlete lifestyle, you need the ODB every once in a while. Like,
100%.
You need the bowl of ice cream, and it's just like, as long as you're like focus is just like not completely off and you're just like I deserve one, I put in the work, you're just you're confident in your work and you're like that's gonna work, like, we'll do it.
And donut's not gonna kill you.
It's insecurity a lot of the time. People are insecure about the work they're doing, and so, I can't eat that.
Yeah, I mean there's also a certain point like when you're running so much, it's burning so many calories, like I mean you probably burn at least 3,000 to 5,000 a day minimum, if not more.
A ton.
It's like you gotta, like you can only eat so much chicken and rice. It's like, I mean, you gotta be a human sometimes too.
Yeah, totally. And that's gonna have people keeping a good relationship with the sport. Long term.
Yeah, because I don't know how sustainable chicken and rice is for every meal.
It's just not, man. It's not. So
yeah,
there's the ideal, but like the balance is so important. Just find things that are like practical for you, like
I love that, dude. Let's end it there. Anything else we missed or want to talk about?
I don't really think so. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude, of course. Thanks for coming out here.
Yeah, that was like phenomenal, really cool.
Yeah, you crushed it. I think that was 2.5 hours roughly, so tons of information, insight.
Great.
If anybody wants to connect with you or like be a part of your coaching program or anything, what's the best place or best way to do that?
Yeah, I would say go on Instagram and at Blue Collar ET, and that's for blue collar endurance training. And then on the web, bluecollaret.com, and there's an inquiry system there, and you can send those in. And even if you just want to go give a follow on Instagram, there's a lot of informational content, and we're like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to spread the right knowledge about the sport out to people, because the internet, the thing back in the day, not a lot of people had the right information, and now there's an influx of information. So now we're trying to make sure people get the right information. So
I love that. Your guys' content's great. It's good.
Thanks, man. Me and my buddy Michael Holden, he's really helped with that as well. So
heck yeah, Dad, you just keep at it. Keep spreading good, positive vibes and information. Good things will happen.
Very appreciative, man. I appreciate you having me. So
of course, dude. Thanks for coming on. Very excited to see. Hopefully, you're running in this meet, representing Puerto Rico here soon, and keep seeing the business grow and everything else. So
for sure,
I love it, dude. Thanks for coming out.
Appreciate it, Jeremy. Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you in the next one.